All right. And I was smart enough this time to have the YouTube stream next to me to confirm when we're live. It says we're live in StreamYard, and now it looks like we're live on YouTube.
Excellent.
Anyone, welcome everybody.
Oh, he's gone. Where'd he go? Nick?
Oh, no. Well, regardless, wherever he's gone, who knows? But welcome everybody to, there he is.
Yeah. Hey, I'm supposed to be the boomer on this. I mean, come on.
I went to click on this comment and I hit the back button on my mouse. I was like, fuck.
More the quality production value you get here.
Right, exactly. Nothing but the finest.
Exactly.
Nothing but the finest. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, welcome everybody. We are happy to have everyone here. Hello, Primeval Fantasy.
Hey, good to see you.
How are you, man? We should get you on the show at some point too to talk about immersion.
Oh, absolutely.
All that stuff.
Yeah, would love to hear more about your setting and
he's great.
Your approach.
Great videos so far. Wish I had more time to watch them. There's so many people's videos that I'm like not caught up on. But I never feel bad about that. But I like watching the people that we're subscribed to. We like watching their videos, and so
exactly,
it's a selfish thing that I'm missing out on.
There's got to be some hate watching in there somewhere, Matt. I mean,
for sure.
But I mean, some of the other channels have that covered. Like Max Liao did a video for like Condor DM. The thing is, both Condor and Max's videos were like rambling, incoherent nonsense. So I didn't get much out of it. So, but I do a little bit of hate watching. Most of the hate watching I do though is like influencer D&D, like the 5e people. And it's not because like I don't think they're obviously, it's like I don't think they're mean people or nasty people, but I just really hate the content.
Right. It's very like gruelish kind of product. You know, they're not really putting any
I used to watch
forward.
a lot of that and back in the battle days, I call them, when I was really just kind of a mainstream gamer. But now when I see it, it seems like it just doesn't seem as sincere. They always have a list of things, you know, but did they actually do this? Is there any, have they put anything, or is this just something that it seems almost auto-generated. And I much prefer content where people will talk about what they've done. Like, have you actually tried this? Like,
no, it is at best, it's all consumer product. It's outsourced consumer product with zero input, zero creativity from, you know, the person doing the video, doing the content themselves, right?
Yeah. And the list style videos, the thing is, those do very well, even if they're not that good. Like the content doesn't have to be great. It's just, it's kind of it's an attention getter. People, even if they're not
want to watch through the whole
thing.
I'm
not interested in this part, I'll skip ahead to the next one. You know, they're still watching a fairly large portion of the video. So we're still learning about all this stuff and trying to make more like standard YouTube content, but about the stuff we like. But work and travel and life keeps getting in the way. So
well, your lion and dragon video is amazing.
Like God, I know it took so much work.
Well, I guess that's the issue.
Yeah, that's the thing. And that was also, so that's been like our highest performing regular video. Got us like, I don't know, like 50 or 60 subscribers off of that, which is awesome. And it was a lot of fun to make, but it was so much work because I had this idea of like, I wrote it, recorded it, and I had like pieces of the of like clips that I wanted to use at certain points that I knew, but then I realized like the pace at which I wanted things to move was I was like, I need so much more footage. And finding the clips and getting like the perfect part was a lot of work, but that we're going to do more of those. And I learned a lot from that too. So now they will be faster to make, but they're a significant time investment. I definitely, the next one that I've wanted to make on that has been for Wretched role-playing game. From the Red Room.
Those seem really interesting.
They're really cool. So our Lion and Dragon game this last weekend had a total party kill, which was
long time coming.
Yeah,
awesome.
honestly, nobody died until this point. They got to 0 hit points several times, but you don't die until -6, and -5 is like only magic can heal you. And if like -3 and 4, like if you don't get medical attention immediately, like you're bleeding to death, you die very quickly. But they never quite got down past 0. And I asked one of my players afterwards, because I was like, he's like, God, it's just so easy to die in this game. And I was like, yeah, but like you survived a bunch. I was like, you guys got reduced to 0 hit points like every session. Like I thought that would, like tell you something about your behavior.
Yeah.
And that's what it taught me is that
someone not
immortal.
Keeping up on current events, man.
Yeah, he said it taught me that I'm immortal.
Yeah.
But so now that that one's over, we're gonna pick that back up in the same campaign world at some point in the future. But I want to try the Wretched game because we haven't actually played that yet, and I have a bunch of their books. I have the core book, Wretched Epoch, which is the setting we're going to use. That's the one that's in like 19th century France.
Oh yeah, the art on that is just incredible.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. Even the AI art is like really, really good in it. Like it's all like the portraiture that they did was wonderful. It's such a good book. It's so good, and the setting is so evocative, and there's just so much you can do for it. And like they have so many references to different things that happened during the period, and recommend, like if any of these are interesting to you, go and read about them, because you'll get way more info from like Wikipedia, and it's just fuel for your games.
That's very much what you want for
a
game that's in a historic setting or a historic time period, especially one as kind of what would you say, relatively obscure as like
there's no other game that has tackled this period.
This place in this time period.
Right. Exactly. So it's a good alternative to like Call of Cthulhu as well, because it's very much the same themes of like there's some of it like the thing is it can get you can make it kind of wacky, like you can be fighting like pterodactyls and things like that, or you can go the route of exploring what they call the Beyond. The Beyond is this like evil dimension from which like psychic and magic power comes from, entities, you can like the elder gods, that sort of thing can come out of it. There's so much there, and it's so evocative. And the other one that I have is Wretched Bastards, which is their fantasy setting, which is much more of a like a explicitly like a rip-off Italian Conan movie rip-off, like
nice
in terms of
you're playing Conan the Barbarian,
or like Deathstalker or something like that, these ridiculous over the top grungy fantasy kind of stuff. But there's a bunch of them, and the thing is like they're in the process of, they had all their games that they released, and now what they've done is they've released this as kind of a second edition where the Wretched game rules are in the core book, and then each new game, the second edition, is just a setting book, and there's some expanded mechanics to it, like there'll be like a new like character class type of a thing. They call it their occupations and archetypes in Wretched, but they'll have their specific things for that. They'll have specific tables related to that, maybe some modifications to magic rules or whatever, but it's very, very light on the mechanics in those books. It's just the setting, and
which is a great way to do it.
God, that sounds very similar. I just finished reading the Total Party Skills core book. I don't know if you've heard of Total Party Skills. It's kind of a rules length
just recently thing. Nick told me about them.
I read the core book, and I think it's a similar type thing. He'll have his various settings. I think he has one in ancient Rome.
He does.
And then
Nick,
that's it. Yeah. And then a bunch of other ones. There's something about we need more Soviet men or something like that. I don't know. But I was interested in just reading the core rules to get the basic mechanics. And I'm glad I did, because he did pull the other setting rules in. So with the Wretched, if I wanted to get into the Wretched games, with these second edition ones coming out, do I have to buy the core book separate and then how does that work?
Yeah, but you'd want to get the core book for the rules. The other thing is if you play any other OSR system,
it's very
you can
similar.
use the setting with an OSR game. Like it's very like the variations on the rules are very minor. And it's totally compatible with like any old school game. And that is actually one of the interesting things about something about the old school games that I do like is that you can just pick and choose what you want out of games and mix them all
that's
together.
nice.
Yeah,
right.
Because one of the things, the Wretched Epoch is very much about like secret societies, and there's like occultism and stuff like that, and it's a great fit to pull in pieces of the Invisible College into it,
pundits
and,
creation,
and it'll just work there, which is really cool. That is a huge strength of the OSR games. But I would say, like start with this. If you have a preferred system and like one of the genres appeals to you, just get the setting book first.
Yeah, get the setting book for inspiration. Okay. Yeah, that's what I would do.
The core rule book though is pretty cool. Like it has rules for every game and everything in there. It's got like fantasy to cybernetics.
Yeah,
and
it hits all the genres.
Right.
Yeah, hits everything.
The cybernetic, the cyberpunk one is New Flesh, right? That's
it's like sort of a
bot, like a John Carpenter
body horror. Like Cronenberg style.
I saw something.
They're doing the second edition for that's dropping soon.
The
they
second
just dropped
edition,
the
cover
on it.
Looks
really
sick.
cool. Yeah, it's like
I think I saw that on what's her name?
Sylvia.
Yes. I think she tweeted it out or something.
Yeah. I really want to get the second edition physical book of Wretched Country. I picked up Wretched Vigilantes, their supers game, and again, great use of art, AI and otherwise. But for a game that's in, it's a modern setting, but in their own city. So it's not drawing from Paris. So they're not using a lot of public domain art, at least that I can tell. But their writing, it's very evocative. They get right to the point and they hit you hard, not only with the writing to put you in that place, but the Vigilantes book, it has a lot of, like their version of the cover of like Time magazine with this superhero on it, or article clippings of how this this former famed superhero was caught, with a trio of prostitutes and a dog, or like all the sordid details of power and fame.
It's very realistic.
Very realistic. Very cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so great about them is they perfectly first of all, it's like they are great people. We got to talk to them on their channel a little while back. They're just awesome, wonderful people. But and that comes through in their books because they walk this tightrope of like a little bit of it is tongue in cheek, and they say things in the core book, like about like rewarding wretched behavior and these things. And they do it, and like it's just tongue in cheek enough, just funny enough, but it's like, but you can do this seriously, and the settings are taken seriously in their own way and to varying degrees within whatever genre it is, and they're not afraid to take like hard topics, adult topics, and just present them to you, and you do with them what you want. There's no hand holding.
They have a clear vision.
Yeah, their games are for adults, and everyone that's playing them is expected to be an adult. So it's awesome. They're just great.
Yeah, I'd have to say I myself lean a little more towards serious tone games than goofy games.
I do too. Yeah,
same.
I'm an older guy. I game with older guys. Like it's not really looking for goofiness. We're not trying to imitate Teen Titans Go or something.
Yeah.
We're not really interested in that. So
correct take.
Yeah, exactly. We also I like a more serious game. I like the game that does take itself seriously and the players take it seriously, and funny things happen. Like that's
of course.
Of
course. Well, it would be hard to imagine sitting around a table for 3 hours and not have a single moment of levity. Like
I know.
That seems a little rough.
Exactly.
Just you wait.
That's right.
Content to come. At some point on Black Lodge Games, but
So Bottle Cap responding to Trail of Prostitutes, Trump the RPG. He says, "Become the God Emperor."
Nice.
Sounds like he's still fixated on that dossier or something.
Yeah.
Good job,
very
buddy.
very real.
Totally real.
Yeah. But I like serious games. I like dark games. And yeah, Red Room just they make really, really good stuff. I'm so excited to start Wretched Epoch. And their rules, their Wretched kind of like in particular, like flavorful rules that they have are really fun and give you there's opportunities to get lots of bonuses that are all kind of tied to role play or just role like to the kind of cinematic nature of the way that the games are meant to be played.
Right.
So it's I think will make the D20 a little more palatable to me instead of its flat 5%.
Yeah,
I hate it so much.
The more I'm becoming more and more more and more disillusioned, I'd say, a little bit with the D20. It just seems so swingy all the time.
Yeah, it's like you have someone who's extremely skilled, and especially in like OSR games where your bonuses are much lower. It's not like you're not getting +8, +9, with all of your various modifiers being added up.
Right.
It's like you're sitting there and everyone's rolling 3 over and over again.
Sucks.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah. I actually this came up in our game this week because I have one player, a great guy, but he has, I don't know, he must have been born under a bad star or something, or some real life witch somewhere has hexed him, because he rolled 3 natural ones on a D20. Like back to back to back. It's like, it's amazing. Like if there was like an anti-lottery ticket that you could buy and win, like, could you short the lottery? If he could short the lottery, he should have done it. Like for sure, you'd win it. And I felt really bad for him because he's trying really hard, and you could tell he just loves the game, but he is one of the absolute worst luck on the dice. Like it's comically bad.
Yeah.
So I feel like if the dice mechanic wasn't just that 5% flat, if it was some semblance of some kind of, I don't know, bell curve of some kind. It doesn't have to be a perfect bell curve, but if there was some kind of normal distribution of numbers, then within certain standards of deviation, it just makes more sense.
Yeah.
And anyway,
that's why I'm a big fan of percentile based systems. Like I like, what your chances are. Right. That is what your skill is, right? Your Call of Cthulhu, your Rune Quest. It's right there on the sheet. You have an adequate, expectation of sort of how good you are, and that that will actually reflect in what the die rolls will give you, right?
I like one of our favorite games we've talked about a bunch of times within the Ring of Fire is at 2d8. And the 8s explode, and so you have
exploding dice are always.
I love exploding dice.
Yeah, it's so fun because it's like generally you're going to be pretty competent at things. You can still like especially depending on the enemies you're fighting, like you can still miss. Like that's something that definitely happens fairly often.
Yep.
But you're generally pretty competent because you're going to have there is going to be some middle number that you're going to be hitting a lot more often. But with the exploding dice, it makes it like you can get really, really crazy high numbers. Sometimes, which makes the game really interesting. And the enemies can get that too. So
they do. And I like that it comes both ways. Like on my Savage Worlds game on Sunday, we had a player do a check, and it was just a D6, but the D6s explode.
Kept exploding.
He got a 41. On the check.
Oh my God.
And so it's just the chances of that happening, obviously you have to run the numbers. I'm sure someone in chat would be like, here's the actual numbers, and good for you if you can do that on the top of your head. But it was pretty fun to see that happen. It was.
That's a Basic Expert's new game, Makwahito. The damage is on is exploding D6s. Everything's a D6, that's awesome. But
good for him.
It explodes. Yeah, so it's like you can have very deadly combat, which might not always be the goal, because you get experience for defeating people and taking them as slaves, because you're Aztecs, you're bringing them for sacrifice. So it's like you might just gut someone, and like you didn't even want to. Looks like we got the chat coming in quite a bit here. Let's catch up.
Sorry.
So Shauner said something. TPS games are for the older crowd, 17
that's
plus.
Total party skills. Yeah.
Total party skills. Okay, tongue in cheek, but no wretched stuff. Okay,
yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I kind of appreciate that, because that's the one aspect of the Wretched books that I'm not totally thrilled about, because I'd rather have heroic parties than the ones that certainly anti-heroes. I totally get that. That sounds cool, but it's just like, how quickly can we do something horrendous?
Sleazy.
Like, I don't want, please.
They do let you choose. I know I don't know if this is the case. I would imagine it's the case for all of the other Wretched setting books, but one thing I liked in the Wretched Vigilantes setting product, they present you with the 7, your 7 sins. You choose greed, lust, gluttony, what have you.
Right.
Or if you want to have that more,
just to
if you want to play like the Punisher or something like that, or you can do it. You choose one of the 7 virtues.
Right.
Chastity.
You can choose one of each. Yeah.
Right.
Or what I would do in any Wretched game I run in the future, you choose one of each, and it's about.
It's a conflict. It's a constant tension between the two. Yeah, that sounds really good, Nick. I think that's a great way of using that. Yeah.
It took me a while to get over the name. Even when I was reading it, I was like, really like this game, but it's called Wretched.
I know.
Like, it's just, it feels gross.
Dirty.
Yeah.
Dirty.
Yeah.
Reading this.
4-letter word. I left the D20 in 1980. Good for you, man. Well, I'm sure you're playing Traveler.
I wish there was some way of just quickly dropping in. I was doing some work on this, and others are much more capable than I am for doing this. But the D20, I was wondering if there's some way, could you just replace it? Could you just do a 2D10 or a 2D8 or something like that? And the hard thing, though, is that it just changes everything. Like trying to change that core mechanic by just switching in a multi-dice option, it's not that simple, because you have things like critical hits and you have target numbers, and now the target number distribution is different, and you can look at things like, well, you could try to balance it by probabilities, but then if you want the probabilities to be the same, then it's not just a natural 20, it's also going to be a 17, 18, 19, 20.
And it also changes how the advancement works. You can't get +1, +2, +3 and a skill bonus or anything. It totally falls apart.
It totally, exactly, Nick. So like, if you could go, because you think, well, then if the standard leveling up procedure is just to give you a static number increase on a system that's using multiple dice, so it's a normal bell curve, then it shifts the whole bell curve. Right. So like that, it seems a little overpowering. Anyway, I don't know. I'm not a game designer.
I don't know. I am not a
a
statistics wizard or
no. And I'm sorry. I'm probably your audience probably wants something more exciting than this conversation, but
no, that's what they're
I'm
here
enjoying
for.
it.
They'll get what they'll get.
They'll get what they get. All right,
just take it. We'll be offering cash for refunds. Oh wait, there's no refunds.
No. We do this for us, so we do like the audience though, and I don't have a time limit on the conversation, so we can hang out and talk as long as you guys want.
I'm yours as long as you'll have me. I'm
cool.
Prostitute myself out to anybody.
So just for the chat, we're having a great conversation right now. So our response to looking at your chats might be a little slow.
Yeah.
However, now would be a great time to remind you we are monetized.
Oh yeah, sorry. I take it all
chat
back.
You want to get bumped to the top of the list.
Throw them shekels.
We will read your super chats.
Absolutely.
Crap phone says 3 1s in a row, 1 chance in 8,000.
Well,
that's
actually
not. I don't think that's how it works. Like, it's the same every time, the same probability every time. Like, it doesn't.
Well, I think he's probably taking the chance. Like, so if it's a 5%,
I know what he's doing.
And then
I'm saying he's wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
It's just 5% every single time that you do it. It doesn't compound. Like,
it doesn't remember. The dice don't remember.
Yeah, it's not less likely the next time. Yeah.
Yep.
I did see a video.
And Guildenstern fallacy.
I saw a video of one of these live plays where somebody was rolling with advantage, and they rolled 2 natural ones.
Oh, I've done it. I've done absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It happens. Yeah.
All aboard the schooner to run it aground on the shoals of Hello Kitty Island. I have no idea. I don't know what you're talking about, man.
I think that's a dig at some Skyrim content.
Oh. Gotcha. Hey, it's he who shall not be named. I hope you're having a good day, bro. I hope something enjoyable happened within it. I too. The Indeed. D20 is what attracts the players. Yeah, unfortunately, that seems to be the case.
Right. Well, it's just an affectation. It's a window dressing, right?
Right.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
It's one of these things like Funko Pops or what have you that identifies D&D, and D&D is nerd chic brand.
Yeah, it's
and on
for
the
iconography as an icon. It's
D6s are boring looking. I kind of agree.
Yeah,
like
they
when
are.
people say my game is D6 based, I'm kind of like, but because
for normal people, a D6 is just what? It's just a dice.
Yeah,
it's a regular.
Yeah,
you tell someone else, oh, you have to grab a D6, and they look at you like, what? It's a 6-sided dice. You mean a normal dice?
Yeah, you
like
mean
just dice?
Yeah. Dice.
Dice.
Is Hello Kitty Island a bunch of femboys and furries?
Undoubtedly.
Justin,
more digs.
Finally find a husband, and isn't it lovely?
Yeah, more digs.
Yep. Skyrim. Things are spicy tonight. I don't know. That's a rabbit hole I'm not going down. Skyrim is femboys and furries.
Yeah.
Re-release. Let's see. What do we got here? Onion Kid getting a 41 via exploding D6s and was 1 in 279,900.
I appreciate it. Onion Kid. I appreciate you. Like that's I find that just fascinating.
Yeah.
You could anyway.
I trust Onion Kid or Trevor implicitly because he's such a good role player, and for no other reason.
Hey, that's great. That's great. Right on.
You think Wretched is dirty? You don't want to play with men? I do want to play. I would love to stream that. But
I mean, I understand that there's some controversy about it, but I don't quite understand. Like,
it's very goofy and funny. It's like aliens abducted a bunch of humans and took them to another planet.
Okay.
Like you are basically like bodybuilder looking men who escaped and are now out in the wilderness living. You have 3 stats: brain, brawn, and balls.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Your traits, it's like hunger, violence, and horniness or something like
that.
I
can appreciate the humor of it. It's just not something that interests me at all.
Right.
Yeah. Not a long-term campaign game.
No. That comes back to that like, what do I want? Do I want something that's more serious, or do I want something that's goofy? And I have done goofy things. We played there was a module that came out a while ago. Probably I'm dating myself now, but it was the Weeby Goblins thing.
Oh yeah, the free RPG.
And it was a free thing for Pathfinder, and you play these wacky goblins, but it really only works in my opinion, it works as a one shot, not as a.
It works as a one shot for kids.
It's a palate cleanser.
It's a great.
Exactly.
It's great marketing material.
It is good marketing material. Maybe
it's
just a gateway drug, perhaps. Yeah.
People love the Paizo goblins.
Yeah, they were fun. Yeah. You know, them and pigs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
It's not the object that is the problem. It's the taint of who primarily uses it. Yep.
Oh, yes. The great unclean masses.
Yeah.
I don't know. I Justin, I hope, and I don't know the answer to this, but I hope that there's more people out there that are like I was, that, you know, very much in that, maybe not 5th edition, but very much in that mainstream, you know, the great hoi polloi gamer.
Yeah.
That if they were to be shown that there's so much more that you can enjoy here, that they could be enticed to come over to, you know, abandon that and join with us. Like, it's a big tent. You're welcome. You know, it's like, come on in. So I mean,
we just got a super chat. I'm just waiting for it to come up.
Drop everything.
$10 from Written Lies, a true fan of the Black Lodge.
Absolutely.
$70K. My suits are worth more than that. Exactly. He is referring to Payback.
Cyberpunk.
No, he's referring to Payback. That's a line from Payback.
Okay. I thought you
70K.
also made a line.
Yeah, Payback is a great representation of how to play Wretched and how to play a Wretched character. So
I haven't watched that movie in a long time, but
so good.
We watched it like 2 months ago. If you could, that would be a great campaign or a great session. Like if you could play the guy out for vengeance, like a real. That would be awesome. The thing is,
it's like he's sleazy and you know, like he does bad things, but he's still definitely the good guy. He's still the hero of the movie. But it's like, oh, the cops are trying to shake him down for his money. What's he do? Frames them for murder.
Yeah, he absolutely clocks player character. For sure.
Yes.
He does things that only a player character in a game would.
Yeah, exactly.
And it works.
And it's all for $70,000, not 130. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's very much like what you killed his dog. Like now he's going to take down the whole organization.
Right.
His dog. Like, why are you? It wasn't just a dog.
Yeah, exactly. There was more to it than that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but
I wrote that I had a dog on my backstory, my character sheet. So now that you've taken it from me, this whole game will now be
now you will be made to suffer as I have suffered.
Well, that's super generous of Mr. Written Lies.
Yeah,
thank
you.
We
really appreciate that. And like we said when we did our first monetization shill stream, all the money that we get from super chats is just going to go into our book when we make it. So you are funding our stuff being better.
That's cool.
You are helping yourself by paying us.
Yeah, to get back to what we were talking about before we were so greatly interrupted by $10, about we hoping that you find other people that like yourself that want to come over and try out, a little bit more of an imaginative and immersive style and focus more on role play. That's basically the whole purpose of why we started this channel, is like not to help people, but hoping, knowing that there's people out there that have this desire to play in this way, and that have might not even know how to really articulate that. It's just something that's kind of, there's something there, and the second you hear about it, you're like, oh,
of course, that makes sense.
Yeah, like that's
exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that is exactly me. That describes me.
Yeah.
Like I was very much, just playing the way that I saw it played. And the way I saw it played is the way you see most people play.
Yeah.
We just sit around the table for 3 hours and we ask the one guy at the table questions until we get the right answer. And, all of the stuff that we typically do, I was doing all of it. And I thought, I knew there was something not quite right, that it just didn't, there's something. And I wonder if that lack of articulation of what it is that is missing, like what is the component here? If we just added something, I was always looking to add something. I was always fooling around, trying to mess around with the engine, so to speak. Can I change this? Can I change something else?
Yeah.
With the goal of having more instances of players contact me the next day saying, I had a great time.
That was awesome.
An awesome session. I can't believe what happened.
Yeah.
I wanted to just string together as many of those sessions as possible. But the problem was that I just couldn't identify enough components of what made a great session so that I could consistently replicate it. Until I came across some channels like yours and Sean are in the chat who went. One of the things, like early on, Matt, you made a short, and I don't know if everyone saw this. I think that everyone should see this. And you just had your face, and you had just kind of this deadpan expression.
Yeah,
someone was doing this clownish thing at the table, and I watched that, and I thought, wait, I'm the clown. Like there's and the same thing happened with Sean. I was watching one of his old videos. I don't know what happened that I was recommended. His channel was recommended, and I think I watched one thing, and I'm like, I don't know Traveler at all. I don't know anything about this.
Yeah.
But every so often I'd check in, and I'd say, nope, Skyrim, that's not really my thing. But or it would be something else. But he had a video where he had gone through and he had watched an actual play, and what he did is he just cut all the questions. Or he edited it so it was just one question after another for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself afterwards, it just shook me. Like I was shook.
Yeah.
Because I realized I saw myself in all of these, and then I started watching the actual plays, and I'm like, I can't even, like, this is supposed to be I don't golf, I role play. Like I like this.
Yeah.
And it was so hard to like it. Maybe this explains a little bit why sometimes there's a bit of backlash when people come on and they say, look, we want to focus on role play. It's like, oh, great, more drama, kids.
Yeah.
and I can understand a little bit the reluctance to kind of look at it and say, well, maybe there's some more that I can do here, because it did. I remember I after that video, and then of course I went into other videos and other YouTubers that do a good job of kind of pointing out, look, the status quo it's not the ideal. Like there's better options out here, or at least try them. At least try it out. If you don't want to do that, if you just want to do the straight board game thing, great, But I just sat. I remember I sat at my game table. I went downstairs. I sat at my game table, and I just for like
stared.
I just staring at this game table, and I'm replaying in my mind all of the sessions that I've done. And I had to. I knew I had to change something, because I came out and talked to my wife, and she's I've been married a long time, like 26 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
My wife, who's not a gamer, she knows how much I love it, and she just looked at me and she says, "There's something wrong." And I'm like, I can't keep playing the way I've been playing. I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And so I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Should I
stop?
No, keep going. This is why we're on.
So I thought about it, and I kept thinking about it. How am I going to explain this to my players? I live in a small town. I don't have a limitless supply of gamers. But I think that the advantage I have, and maybe others will have this, is that if you have over time, like I've always tried to bring more to the game. I've always trying to, like, I'll try something new. I'll buy a book about game mastering or something like that. And after having that, reading through it, and I'll read it, and like there's one book I'll read every year. I'm like, okay, yeah, I forgot about that. I'm going to try that again. So I had over time built a bit of goodwill with my players. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So when I went to them and said, guys, I really want to change things up, and this is what and then I thought I had a bit of an epiphany about how to position this to my existing players, because I said to them, I feel like I've taken away too much of your agency. And and what I meant, and I explained it to them, I shouldn't be moving your characters around in the world. I shouldn't be telling you what you can do. I shouldn't be giving you suggestions. I shouldn't be telling you what you think or how you feel. All of that is your domain. And so by positioning with them, and then I think that they trust me, that I'm always looking for improvement. It's just I'm just always looking to get better.
Yeah.
And they were able to. Well, they came along, and since then, while not every game has been a winner, far from it, we have had more consistent good results, I would say. So like the good results have been way better than I could have anticipated. And we have more of them. So those that I was concerned wouldn't come around for the ride. And I'm like, well, if the town the size that I live in is going to be a bit of a challenge. I do have a bit of a waiting list for the game, but even then, I mean, those are 5th edition players. What is that going to look like? Horrible experiencing running 5th edition for the local game store. Not really interested in repeating that. So it was anyway, that was my thing. Is that, like, really just having that moment of thinking back of how I've been running a game for 17 years, the same group, and thinking I've got to change. I just can't. And part of the reason why I felt like I had to change is that I kept on changing game systems, thinking
looking for,
you were trying to find
for something, and I still like changing the system, because some systems do some things better than others. But I realize now that it wasn't so much the system; it was more of the style of play that I was looking for. That anyway, a lot of words there.
No, that's awesome.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Nick.
I mean, I think your experience is what is the case. I would say almost universally for anyone who wants to role play better, wants to role play well, wants to immerse themselves, wants to get better, like you say. It's it's a strange thing, right? The Pareto principle has not manifested itself.
Good point.
In the game,
that's a really good point,
in the hobby,
Nick.
Which is crazy because it really is defined by all the bad things we've talked about elsewhere, in this channel. We can all agree on. there isn't any terminology, any real terminology or any examples. It's universally this shallow gruel, right? And so nobody knows what it is that they want.
Right.
They hear about role-playing games. They hear about, through media or a family member or a friend, older sibling, what have you. And again, like any good, consuming any good art material or what have you, you have an idea in your mind as to what that might be, what it could be, and what you want it to be. You want to engage your imagination and inhabit these worlds and these characters and do all these things, and it's never that way, right?
Yes. Nick, I think you're absolutely right, and that I was very much in that camp. Like I think most of us, even those of us that are very much of the the role playing is just acting with whatever. I don't think it is, but that I can understand that even those people have a. I think that they have that they can see the potential. They can say this hobby has potential. Like this is more than just sitting and playing Hero Quest. Great game, Hero Quest.
Right.
Why don't we just all play Hero Quest? Well, because we can see there's much more depth available. And I loved playing Hero Quest back when I was a kid. Like that was
and this is, I mean, we always say like, if you're going to play a board game, just play a board game. And that's never meant to be taken as an insult to board games.
No, I love board games.
Yeah. But they're not the same thing. They don't offer the same experience as a role-playing game. And to what you said earlier too, about having living in a small town and having like a limited pool of players to draw from, that's a really big risk that you took. And but I mean, obviously it sounds like the reward has been worth it. And I think that people are a little too risk averse in general most of the time. And if you don't take some risk, then you're never going to get
anything.
You're never going to get anything. And so it's I mean, I think it kind of speaks to your character that you did that, because that's
Matt,
really awesome.
I wouldn't take credit for that. I would actually put that back on your shoulders, because you said something, and others have said it too, that they said, look, it's better to not play in a garbage tier game than to play in it. Like, just in other words, if you can't play in a good game, don't play at all.
Yeah. Right.
And I talked
and that's
about
actually true. It's not just snark, right?
It's not just snark. No, and I do
describe
believe
that
you're right. I think you're right. And so I talked it over again with my wife, because I bounce a lot of ideas off her, and she said, well, what will you do? Do you want to just continue doing the same thing? If they're not going to come along for that, are you prepared to just say, this is it? And I had that moment of that. No, absolutely. I'm prepared to say, I'm prepared to just burn it all to the ground. But thankfully, and this has been my experience, and this is why I thought it was important, among other reasons, to share my experiences, is because it's not, I didn't find that I alienated anyone. Because the more I encourage players to adopt more of a in character attitude at the game, the more they enjoy it. It's a positive. It's not
everybody involved.
It's not like, okay,
it's just better for everybody.
I want you to have a miserable time. So no one's having a miserable time. And that's not to say we're perfect. We are not. We're still working on this. It's going to take a long time. It's been helpful that I have the opportunity to introduce people to the game on a regular basis, because we'll have friends and family that have been pestered with stories about this character that whatever, and so like, I want to come and see what this is all about. If you guys are all ranting and raving, can I come and see? And so it's having that kind of fresh eyes on the hobby from periodically also encourages existing players to stretch a little bit, and that's been really helpful.
Well, what's interesting to me, definitely as Matt said, it's a testament to the degree that you're willing to go for something that you're actually passionate about, and you want to spend your time, your effort doing it right, doing it in a way that is enjoyable to you and you're getting fulfillment out of. But and there's a lot of people undoubtedly like that who are by themselves thinking, how could I make this better? How could I make this happen? But what's more interesting, not more interesting, but I guess what's even more rare to my experience, okay, you're the GM, you want to take the game to the next level, right? You want to focus on an immersive role-playing style. Getting a group to go on board with that and to not bail on you or to dig their heels in. I have never had that experience. I've had a 0% success ratio trying to get people who've been in previous groups I was a part of who were the more casual style of player, getting them to shift to that more role-playing style. So, I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. It also sounds like you actually have real friends rather than just gaming partners.
Excuse me.
You know,
pardon me. They're my age showing. But what I would say to that, Nick, and this is also a little bit of an answer to a comment by Justin, who brings up a good point. He says, well, you know, if your friends like to play a certain sport and you prefer to play a different sport, you're just not going to be friends anymore. Well, I hope not. I hope that you'd still be friends. And my answer to that, and to your point, Nick, I'm willing to meet people wherever they are. So I'm quite happy to see degrees of improvement. So I'm not like there for a while there was some talk about, do we do first person, third person? I'm not terribly dogmatic about those questions. I'd like to see if people are willing to try, and then I'll meet them where they are. So there's degrees. Like we have some players that are absolutely both feet all the way in. And then there's other players that are slowly coming along, and I give them encouragement where appropriate. And they're also the ones saying, hey, I really like this change that we've made. Now, their pace of change is different. Each player has a certain degree that they're able to move. And they don't, but they're all, in my experience, it may just be my group. Keep in mind, my sample size is like N equals 5, right? So it's not, what's his name? He has a funny avatar. It's like a pixeled one. Where are you? Yes, Onion Kid. Yeah. You could probably say, well, like this is, you know, your sample size is too low. You can't generalize. And that's going to be a question that I'm going to struggle to answer over a long period of time. Is it possible? Is my experience something that can be applied to other groups, or is it just unique to me? I don't know the answer to that, but I would say that because I'm willing to work with players over time and where they are, you know, it's not a deal breaker for them, Nick. Like do you understand where I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Like
I do. Yeah,
like it's like, oh, sorry, you're speaking out of character again. You don't get a call back. No, like,
get out.
Get out.
Just get out. So, and there has to be, I think that it helps if you know your players. Like if you know players, then you can kind of see where they're getting frustrated. Like I know these individuals. I've been in some cases gaming with them weekly for 17 years.
Yeah.
So I can tell when they're getting frustrated. And so I know when it's a good time to be like, hey, can you restate that? Or I just let it go. So, you know, do you know what I mean? Like, so it's a long process. It's not an overnight thing. I wish it were like just to flip the switch and now we're perfect, but it just doesn't, that's not the way these things work.
So Primeval Fantasy says, regarding immersive gaming, and by the way, if you guys want to be really good at making comments on a live stream, this is how you do it. You put the topic in the comment.
Oh yeah, that's
make
great.
A comment. Yeah,
that's great.
Great innovation.
100%. Most people don't take the time to ask themselves what they most deeply want, let alone have serious conversations with their groups, let alone consider the changes needed to get it. Yeah, and that's
my experience for sure.
Yeah,
but given the opportunity. Oh, I'm sorry, I've interrupted you.
No, go ahead.
No, but given the opportunity, if we, I just let the players, I gave them examples of what we were doing that could be improved. And I just kind of hammered it, just like that video I watched where I was like, oh no, this is totally me. And then we talked about it and said, well, does that sound fun to you? Like if you were to watch this, if we were to record this and you were to watch it back, would you be able to make it more than 20 minutes? Or is this, because it should flow, it should be. And so we had that open conversation, and this might be an artifact of me building goodwill, having, bribed them with beverage and whatever over many years, opening up my house on a weekly basis, making sure I don't cancel very many games. I try my best to be there. My wife, kids around, it's my second job, but I love it. So maybe it was just the goodwill that they're willing to humor me, but I think I'm going to get your name wrong. Primeval Fantasy is 100% right. It's that it's the option of taking the time to ask yourself, what do you really like about this? Like, what is it that you really enjoy? Yeah. And why wouldn't we be doing more of that? And maybe it's something you don't even know you'll enjoy until we try it. So why don't we try it?
I mean, I think what you're saying, it hints on a broader topic that I've thought about before. I don't know if I brought it up on the channel before.
Shauner says some YouTubers nuked their channels after the video.
I didn't even nuke my game. I was like, I can't.
You cannot go back. And Mr. Max says hello. I don't know if he's still here, but just stopping by to say hi. I'll have to watch that on the replay.
Oh, no Mr. Max has had a great live stream where they were talking about Critical Role or Critical Hits and that kind of thing. So I like Mr. Max's channel.
He's got
great guy.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good guy.
But I think,
other than he's French Canadian, but we'll give him that a
pass. Battle of the Leafs.
Definitely if you're in or you're looking to, I guess, establish a long-term gaming group, which is what you should be doing. You should be hanging out. If you're doing something in person, I feel like this has to be true. You really should be, in the best case scenario, these should be your friends in general. You should have more in common with them than just gaming. You should be hanging out with them beyond the weekly game. Because if, for example, let's say they don't want to go along with, or don't want to go along as fast with a more immersive style, that isn't the only thing you have in common with, and the friendship doesn't end.
Yeah, true.
And they're also more willing, I would hope, to take you up on that trust, right? Mm-hmm. that you mentioned. We have all these things in common, or maybe not. Maybe we don't even have these things in common, but we have a real connection. We have a real friendship.
Yeah, and we have to that point, Nick. We have shared gaming experiences that we still fondly remember. Yeah. So like we have good feelings about the game itself together. And I would say that I have had instances where I just could not see a player staying with the group because there was maybe a personality change or some conflict there. So I do think there's some value in saying, look, we're going to introduce a new player. Like, this is how I do it. If we have an empty seat, which doesn't happen too often, but if we have a long-term empty seat and we're looking to fill it, then we'll have that person come and I'll try to vet them a little bit. What is it they're looking for? Are they looking for a goofy game or more of a serious game? We already talked about that. Yeah. And is their expectation matching what we're looking for? If that still seems to be the case, then after a session or two, I'll have a conversation with the rest of the group and say, okay, let's talk about it. Is this someone that we can we see them long-term in the game, or is this going to cause some friction? And if so, then we can just, before we go any further, I'll just tell them, it looks like we're going a different way. So I do vet. The other thing too is that
you absolutely need to do.
You need to do that. Yeah. And what other people don't realize, I don't think I've shared this with the group, and I don't know if anyone will get in at 54 minutes into the live stream, but my wife has the last say. She has veto on it. So if she doesn't like the person in the house for whatever reason, then that's it. It's just a non-starter. This is my home, right? So we'll talk about it as a group to see whether or not this person's going to fit in, and not to be the same. Like, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not looking for just carbon copies of existing players. Like, no, but they have to have some basics like hygiene.
We have to be on the same. Hygiene.
If my wife comes down after the game session and she can't breathe in the basement, then someone's going to have to either start washing their feet or something, or you've got to go. Like, it's just not a.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or everything is political, or like those kind of people. I just don't.
I'd
rather not. Thank you.
And I like talking about politics.
I do too. God, I'm extremely opinionated. But when we're running the game, I don't want that to be the distraction, because I do expect that there'll be
I don't want that to be
opinions at the table.
Part of the game too,
right? Because it's not a part of the game.
If it's not, and I've run games where there's definite political influences, but I'm not trying to introduce mainstream or even current politics.
Right.
Like, why would we?
Right.
This is supposed to be an escape from reality. Like, let's not bring. We don't have to bring every current event thing into the game, please.
Or even any current event.
Any of it.
Like, I'd rather not. I'd rather not. I'd rather think of. First of all, I think that kind of immediately breaks the immersion feeling. Like, oh, okay, so now we're introducing this current social concern.
Also, there's no way. I don't think there's any way to even do that. Even if for a moment, what if we do a Mortals World of Darkness game during the 2016 election, which would be funny. But but there's no way. At least some people or everybody, are not going to feel that you're just pushing something.
Right? Yeah, and I don't.
Which honestly, you probably are.
Yeah. If you were doing that, I think you are certainly trying to convert someone over, and it's not a I don't want to be guilty of doing that. Like, then you're just, I don't know. Yeah. So anyway, that's my comment on the player issue. It's a great question to bring up. So you're just gonna, somebody doesn't agree, so they're just not your friend anymore? No, I hope not. That's pretty shallow.
That's and I can't remember who it was on the stream a while back though, but they were like saying that they're like a Bernie style. I won't say Bernie style, but they said that they're like a Democratic Socialist of America, and they're like, I think I'm probably the only like lefty person that sticks around in this corner. And we're like great. That's awesome.
Well,
great.
Good for you. Like,
we are totally fine with being friends with and hanging out with people.
You otherwise. I may think that you're absolutely wrong, but why not? That's okay. We can share a hobby. Wouldn't the world be a better place? if we just like, hey, our relationship does not have to be based around what whatever talking head on TV tells you that it should be based around. Like, we can base it around other things that we have in common.
And in terms of like the culture war stuff, like Nick and I were talking about this a little bit recently with RPGs. It's when people can't help but insert the politics into the product. That's the problem. It's not that a person has particular views. Like, I buy
specific
games,
policy opinions.
I buy games from people that I disagree with vehemently on politics.
Most of the games I own are from like shit libs,
they're like total shit libs, but the thing is, I buy the games because the games are good. Like, the games are good. Some products I'm not going to buy. Like, I'm not going to buy like Strixhaven or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
well, you're not
ready. Also, it's a trash product.
What are you, a bigot?
Right. But that's
buy
the thing.
The product. Consume.
I will buy a good product. And the thing is, when people make a good product and you pay for it, it incentivizes them to make
good products.
Yeah. So like you should not,
baby.
in my opinion, base your consumer choices simply based on the views of a creator of a game. Right. Like that's a bad way to judge.
It's a bad framework, and it's doomed to.
You just kind of back yourself into a corner, don't you? Like,
you're not going to get the results that you want.
You're not, because then you're stuck with what you have to do an ideological test on the products that you do buy.
Yeah.
But what if those products are substandard? Like, so now it's no longer a meritocracy. It's just whoever agrees with me. I don't know. That seems like backing yourself into a.
It's a way to just get terrible products made over time.
Yeah. I can see why some people, like, I have heard Some say, well, stop giving money to people that hate you.
Sure.
And I think to a certain degree, sure. I mean, you don't have to necessarily buy all their products, but if they have something that's really good that you can take and make your own, well, I don't see a problem.
I don't see a problem with that either. I mean, it's like the thing isn't the problem. The people are the problem. I get that. But
and if it goes into the product, then it's a trash product.
It's a trash product anyway, so you're not going to buy it. Yeah. But if it's not in the product and the product stands on its own, it's good, then like there's no reason, not to reward that. You want it, at least like, and it's not even about rewarding.
It's not rewarding.
If you like it, I want it. It's a good thing. Sure. There's a side effect that it rewards that person for doing something great.
Well, and if these, like I do sometimes hear some say, well, if you're this or that or the other thing, this game's not for you. And I'm like, well,
I know.
Don't I get to decide what game is for me? And I think it's more, it actually is more of kind of spitting in those people's eyes to say, no, I'm going to take your product. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to make it my own and enjoy it. And I think that's more, I'm like, yes, you're giving them some money. True. But it's more that you're saying, no, I can appropriate any game and make it my own. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
exactly. And there's like recently we started looking at the new Werewolf the Apocalypse release.
So we have to do that at some point. Yeah,
we do have to do that at some point. I will say the art in that book is awesome.
Quite good.
It's super good. But
the
there's
art and
all
the layout are good, but
there's exactly what you said. It's like, this game is not for fascists or whatever you call yourself.
Whatever that even means.
Days.
Like,
it just means I disagree with you at this point.
Yeah, at this point, it's almost meaningless to say that. I would say, like, I think in the chat, Cal Vanoni said something. He says, like, he's mentioning Evil Hat Games. I'm not very familiar with them, but specifically tells you not to buy the products. And I personally, if I had a choice between two products that I was interested in both of them, and one of them told me, if you don't sign our purity pledge to be this, that, or the other, and there was another one that's just, hey, I'm just trying to make the best product I can get, and they're roughly equivalent to my eyes. Well, it's a clear choice which one to pick. Like, but
Also, though, like those forwards, those like prefaces, this book is not for XYZ. Those are like the most limp-wristed, impotent kind of like virtue signaling. You've actually made
it's like you're holding a cross to the vampire, like, oh God, you're right, I can't play it.
Oh no, oh no, who's checking on me? Like, is there some kind of like quality control coming to my house? And like, wait,
well, in Watsy's case, they might
have a red hat. But I better not have a red hat in here somewhere.
It's so frustrating. So, and I am tired of being lectured, basically, and I'm tired of being lectured by people on the right too. It's
both sides are guilty of this, and whether they're not on my team or not, I don't think it's good behavior. Really, I'm more concerned about just improving the quality of the game week to week. Like that should be our focus. What is how can I have a better game this week than I had last week, and how can I build on that, and what sort of things that we should we do together to have a better experience. So
absolutely agreed.
Yeah
and honest, and your own group that is the only influence that's as much
100%
as you can make, whether you're on the right or you're on the left, whether you're against fascists and Nazis or you're against the woke crowd.
And remember, that's the only choice. Those are the only polls, the only two groups that exist.
There's no gradation on either side.
You're not going to change. You're not going to change the dynamic.
But I completely agree with you, Nick. The critics that I care about are my players. Like that's who at the end of the day. That's all that matters to me. I do appreciate. I get lots of good ideas from commenters on videos and people that are sharing their experiences, and I really appreciate that. And in many cases, I try to see if I can incorporate those ideas or test them in my own game. But at the end of the day, it's really, what are your friends saying to you? Like, do they like what you're doing, or do they not like what you're doing? And you should probably listen to them. So,
go touch grass and
touch grass. That's right. Go touch grass, please. Because those are real human beings. And
yes,
I mean, I'm not trying to send a coded dig to the chat or anything, but
no, you're completely right.
You don't have to code it.
Yeah,
you can
I appreciate that
all you want.
Like lots of opinions, and it's pretty easy to write opinions. I've been guilty of it too.
Yeah,
but it's a lot different than we're doing something like this, where we're talking and there's a real human being there. So that's I appreciate the criticism that I get from others, but at the end of the day, it's really what my longtime players say that matters most to me.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so it seems like you said you've had the moments where things work, they seem to really, really work. And then sometimes you're not feeling like you're maybe getting there. I guess I would ask, even the times where you're feeling like you felt like you've gotten off track or it didn't go the way that you wanted. How does that compare to the way you were running the game previously?
Matt, that's an excellent question. And if I understand the question correctly, what you're saying is, so even when it doesn't work, if you were to compare that to what you were doing before, how does it compare? I would still say it's better now than what used to be kind of. So the baseline has shifted. So everything is, even when it doesn't really work, and we fall back into old habits, I still have players that at the end of the session will say, "Hey, that was great time. I had a great time. That was fun. We had it was good." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh, it was a train wreck. Like everything went wrong." I'm pretty hard on myself when it comes down to it. I'm probably a little bit to a fault.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the perfectionism in me. Like I want to, first of all, I absolutely do want to have people coming back and, excited to be there. And I always kind of wonder, well, I've had some player, absenteeism. What's going on here? Have I lost somebody? Is it something I've done like that? So there is that to contend with, and a little bit of imposter syndrome. Like, well, what do you really know about this? Like but at the same time, if I compare those bad sessions now to bad sessions before were just way worse than even a quote unquote bad session now.
That's awesome.
So it just goes to show you. And that's great.
And it's good to, I'm glad you asked that, Matt, because it is good to take stock in it from time to time, to just take a step back and say, well, where did we start? Where are we now? Where do we want to go? Where do we think we want to go is probably a better way of saying that. Like, I don't know where, I'm not even sure how much improvement, I don't think there's a ceiling on it. I think you can continue to get better and better and better. And I've watched some games out there where I'm like, wow, like they're way ahead from where I'd like to be right now. But it's good to take a step back. And what I've tried to do now is that at the end of each session, like at the last half hour or so, when we would normally just go right to the end, when I can hear the shower turn on upstairs. I'm like, okay, that's the signal. The wife wants them out of the house now. So let's get them out. But we try to end a little early so that we can have a bit of a debrief on it. And I asked them, what did you like? And that's been really helpful too, to just take stock on it and say, this is still worthwhile. I've mentioned this before, but I've had players where I thought they were going to be very reluctant to change long established habit, but they've become among the biggest cheerleaders for they're champions now for the change. Like
that's awesome,
which is really encouraging. And I think if you just have a couple of those in your group, that can give you that impetus to keep the ball moving, keep it rolling, build on the momentum.
Yeah, very much so. Now you mentioned improvement. I'm curious from your perspective what when I escaped the matrix, right? Escaped the gaming matrix and had a more solid vocabulary, a more solid idea of what I thought I wanted to do, or at least wanted to try. Both as a player and as a GM, I noticed there are definitely, now that I'm thinking about this, I'm putting more awareness into, the activity in the moment. I definitely see there are things I'm not quite good at or that need work, but there are some things that I'm really, really good at. I'm curious if you or any of your players found when you put some more thought, more effort into, staying in character, all the things we talk about, what have you or any of your group really excelled at?
Oh, good. So like you're asking from the players, like what have the players discovered about
both
their own?
and from you as well.
And from you.
So it turns out that I'm pretty good at the camera mode. I'm pretty good at describing things. I bring a lot of energy to the game, and I think that's maybe a strong point. I get excited. Like I'm really excited. I bring the energy level up way high. I have some players, one player in particular, in answer to your question, Nick, that what if we discovered that we didn't realize that were some hidden strengths that we just weren't capitalizing on?
Yeah.
I have one player and he's really good at talking in character to other players in the game. He's really good at that. And that has been one of the hardest things to do because they're just right there. It's so easy to just talk to them. Like there's add a character.
You mentioned that on one of your videos. Yeah. That was a challenge. Yeah.
It was a big challenge. It continues to be one of the biggest challenges. Can you stay in character? It's one thing to stay in character with me because I'm the game master. It's a little easier to do that, I think, than to stay in character with other players and not have it be like weird. But just before chat jumps all over me on that, I don't like it when I don't like funny voices. I don't like accents. Like I make it clear. I'd rather not have that. To me, it sounds weird. And I'm just not into it. Maybe that's because it's not a strength of mine. I'm not good at accents or funny voices. I can vary pitch and tone a little bit, but I don't do accents well. And so that has been a real challenge, is to stay in character while we're talking to one another. But one player in particular is really good at that. Another one is really good at describing his character in the world. So he thinks of things like, and this is, I'm not going to do this justice because when I describe it, you're going to be like, oh my word. He will go into sufficient detail that so he'll say, I keep my arm out like this for balance, or he'll say like with that, he'll just add that one little step so that everyone there can picture his character's pose. Like we can all get it. We can, he's really good at that part of it. He's really good at that. Another character or another player that has discovered he's really good at remembering NPCs and their and having that ongoing experience with an NPC. Like he's really good at that. Nice. So there were some things that maybe were just latent skills that were always there. They just didn't get the same chance to shine through, and they're doing much better at it. Much better at that.
Yeah, that's great to hear.
But it's one of those things where I don't know that they would ever have shone through if I didn't have a chance, or if I didn't take the risk of saying, we're going to switch things up. We're going to do this as an experiment. I believe that it's going to make for a better experience for everybody. And very fortunately, it was a much better experience for everyone, regardless of where they are on that spectrum between, I just want the game, I just want to roll the dice, versus I just want to have dialogue. Like there's a big spectrum there. And I would place my players a little further on the dialogue now than what they were before, but I wouldn't say that they're all in the same category. They're not. There's some variation there.
Right. I like how you put that together, like how you described what the transition is, right? You're, we wouldn't have these things were always there, these talents, these skills, whatever you want to call them, but they didn't shine through to your point. I mean, that illustrates quite well what we've been talking about on this channel. We mentioned before, it's improv theater, failed actors, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
No, if you're engaging in an immersive style of play, you're not doing something different per se. You're doing what you're already doing more and better and with more attention. It's not, you're not going from, what would you say, badminton to volleyball, right?
No.
It's the same thing. You're doing it with a greater attention.
Mm-hmm.
You're enjoying it more because you are, present in that moment more,
yes.
right? That's
a very fair comment, Nick. We're absolutely getting more from the game now, and we haven't taken away we haven't taken away the game elements. We really haven't taken away anything. We're just changing where our focus is and adding that as a focus. And so that's been a really good experience. One other thing that I the other thing I wanted to mention that I think is just awesome. One of the side effects from really focusing in on or encouraging players, inviting players to think more in character than out of character, is that character motivation has changed. It's no longer this abstract, I just want to get my experience points.
I want my treasure, I want my experience.
I just give me my experience points. All I want is this experience points. Like, it's not that anymore.
I want my advancement.
It's not that. And I'm not, again, I haven't removed experience points from the game. Like, they're still there. Yeah. We still have the traditional character advancement. Yep. And that's fun in itself, but that's no longer the main driver, because I've had now multiple instances, and we're playing Weird Frontiers. Weird Frontiers, a DCC product, very much an old school thing. It can be quite deadly. And but aside from just the deadliness of the system that's just inherent in the system itself, I have players now
the violence that are more than in the
willing. System. They're just Matt. They're just more than willing to say, as my character develops, my character, because of what's happened in previous sessions, my character is willing to sacrifice themselves in this situation.
It cares about something.
It cares about something more
like
than
a person.
Something that the character himself wouldn't know. Like, does your character in the game understand experience points?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I do think that's a great development, because that opens up all sorts of things. That if the character development now isn't so much just getting like, how much more experience do I have to get before I get another +1, or how much more experience do I have to get until I get a new spell?
Right.
It's more, how is my character changed from one session to the next? And because of my character background, like, we had one of the players, he loved his character. He said that this is his favorite, he has more fond memories of this character that he's created, this one that he was playing, than any other character that he's had. And yet he, in like 2 sessions later, he says, my character, having experienced what he's done in the world, he would no longer be putting himself at this kind of risk. And because he was young or whatever it is. And so he's going to change. And he, of his own volition, he decided that this character is going to take a extended hiatus, may never come back to him. And this is a character that he absolutely loved.
Yeah.
But he was so into the character that he was like, no, given what's going on and what's happened, and
I'm playing my character.
I'm going to play the character, even if that means that the character to keep the simulation of the world believable for this particular player. I wasn't the one that suggested this. He on his own said, no, it's time to sunset this character. And
that's fantastic.
And he's still like one of his favorite characters ever. And I think I'm hoping that experience will stay with that player for years to come. Like, that's going to be one of those highlights.
Undoubtedly,
like, you play the highlight reel and like, I loved it when this happened. And it's not just that one time, over the last decade that I rolled double 20s. It's, it's more than that.
Some of my fondest gaming memories are character deaths. My own character death. Many of them.
And we have that much more often now. Anyway, so awesome. I'm rambling again.
No. This is all good. This is why you're on the show.
Absolutely.
So Canuxrum says, I think this is about politics and game design. Nick, it's deeper than that. If they're that sloppy in their thinking and interface with the world, how good could their game possibly be? That is totally fair.
I mean, that's absolutely
how could they have play tested it well? Match. But here's the other thing. It's like, in regard to like the like Werewolf saying like, this game, fascists, this is not for you, fascists can't play this game or whatever. It's like, to this point, it's like, how could they know that? Did they test it really all that well?
No, I'm just not convinced that's more than like a bus float of people somewhere that's probably not in the hobby anyway. Like, so,
right.
Both political sides are trash. L says Hasbro wanted a morality clause in OGL 1.1, got a gay man banned from DM Guild for his product being too gay. Then Baldur's Gate 3 gay bear sex scene with full frontal.
Some logical inconsistencies there, I think, that L points out. That, and I don't like. I was like, well, if you want to, in my opinion, to be intellectually consistent, if someone wants to make something that's too gay, whatever, then fine, go ahead and make it. Like, I don't.
Yeah, no one's stopping you.
No one's stopping you. No one should stop you.
Make the gayest product ever.
So I think that Men, or some kind of satire type product like Men, should exist at the same time as whatever, what is it? Something sword lesbians or something. Both should exist. Like that's fine. I'm not going to, obviously I'm not drawn really to either side of that extreme, but
and no one who is actually a gamer is purchasing Thirsty Sword Lesbians or Coyote and Crow. They're doing it to virtue signal. And so,
go
ahead.
I was gonna say, Jay Bullham, to be fair, the fact that you guys only care about the players and the quality of the game is what brands you as a fascist in the eyes of these morons.
Oh yeah.
I think he's absolutely right. Yeah. I think he's right. And that's really unfortunate because, I don't know, I kind of want to extend the tent pegs. Like I want to have more people long-term in the hobby. And I feel now that we've tried this out, I feel like we have a bit of an antidote for I guess burnout in the hobby. Like it's I think it's still possible to get burned out, but I think it's less likely if you're getting so much more from the game than you would get from just playing.
You shouldn't be burning out if you're in a group environment that where you get to do this immersive style, when you get to put yourself really into it, and when there aren't these limitations or these clash of personalities, all these things, they're burnout is a product of obstruction, right?
I think you're probably right on that, Nick, that it is kind of an obstruction thing, or trying to fit yourself into a round peg in a square hole,
exactly,
or a square peg in a round hole, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
But
exactly. Go ahead.
No, I mean with burnout, like you're absolutely right. It's usually like because you are trying to, at least in my experience, when I've experienced burnout, it was when I was trying to come up with what the game was going to be like beforehand. And it's very hard to do that consistently and for long periods of time. And if you have players that like making choices and throwing, a wrench in your plans, it's all for nothing anyway.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So it's like when you really, it's the fun is when you learn to embrace the kind of chaos and the nature of like the players are going to come up with accidentally, way more interesting stuff than you ever ever going to.
Matt, I think you're 100% right. And that's one of the things that when I was selling this idea to the players, I made the point to tell them, look, I have to get something out of this too. And if I'm coming up with every plot point and I'm coming up with every last detail in every the scope of every scene that we're in, I'm bored. Like I don't want that. I'll get burned out, and then all of a sudden I'm pushing a new system on you to try to rekindle that fire.
Exactly.
And I don't want to do that. I'd rather. I mean, it takes some effort, of course, but I do think it's better to have that spontaneity at the table that comes with playing with human beings that will do unexpected things.
Yeah, and that's the thing about role playing too, that I think that a lot of people miss, is that there is one of the most fun aspects of this, for me at least, is the spontaneity. Because nobody knows where it's going, and each person is, if they're trying to essentially just live in the moment as much as they can and embody that character, like really unexpected things happen, and you're all on your toes the whole time. It's kind of like being in a fight or like dancing or something.
Yes.
And there's the accusations of you're all actors and you're story gamers and everything like that. It's like, I think these people have never role played in their life, and
there might be a definition.
Never experienced this.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. And I sometimes wonder if we're not guilty of just talking past each other on this particular issue. Like we talk past each other when we're not. We either listen in bad faith, or we just don't like. We have a hard time defining things, and we may be talking about the same sort of game. If you were to just take the nomenclature off of it, then we might actually be very close. Like we may not be as far away as some may think. That's been my experience so far. Is that they may actually be a little closer, but we have ill-defined terms, and we're guilty of this maybe on our side too. Like where we'll look at the more gamey aspects of it and say, well, we don't want a stupid board game, or that's just a board game, or. But it's fun
to insult people. So.
Yeah, it is. And we are on the internet, so I guess we have to expect some of that.
Yeah.
But I do think that it's I've been guilty in just not defining what I'm looking for, and I think having those definitions, and we can hopefully find some common ground. We may not completely agree.
I've become more pessimistic over time.
Yes, I know
about in most things, but specifically with at the utility of like vocabulary or definitions, and I'm still of two minds about this, because I do agree. Yeah, you take a word which is ubiquitous and should be understood implicitly, like role playing. It's in the name, right?
Yeah.
And there's 10,000 different definitions for everybody.
Yeah,
totally.
Everybody I've ever talked to has said they are who's in the hobby, says that they are into role playing. Very different things. Yeah. But I do believe, I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are on this. Yeah, maybe I'm being too pessimistic, or maybe not pessimistic enough.
No, I'm here to white pill you, Nick.
But I think that is true.
White pill.
I think most. Oh, God.
So on the topic of having like clear definitions and talking past each other, talking past each other definitely has happened with some people we've interacted with previously, for sure. We've been guilty of it, but my thing is, like, yes, we need clarity in language, and so I'm going to be as clear as I can in my language, and I don't care if a bunch of idiots don't understand it.
Yeah. Oh, true.
Because,
yes.
True. Like, if some people understand,
idiots are
what
bad
I'm saying,
faith people,
right? They're no faith. It's just there's nothing there.
Faith,
that's true, Matt. Yeah.
Like, they're different than a bad actor. But it's like I think though, when people concentrate on like, we have to get our definitions right and then we can communicate properly, and we'll have these ideas and we will come to some sort of a meeting of the minds. I don't care about that anymore. Because I think that politically,
people aren't coming to the table for the same reason,
right?
Right? It can't be the silver bullet.
You see this in politics all the time, where it's like you might have people that they get all the definitions sorted out, they argue, and they just still disagree, and there is no meeting of the mind. And it's not typical that that people, like, through the sheer force of our reason, we will communicate with the other person and change their mind. It's like, that's not gonna happen. So I'm not interested in that aspect of it. Like, I just don't care. People can you can go over there and be wrong, and that's fine, but I'm going to talk to people who do understand, and that's not to say that like I can't have my mind change. My mind has changed it does change on things, but I'm not interested in.
Are you referring to the reaction role thing, or are you?
I mean, a little bit. Okay, so yeah, we can talk about this. So I've been thinking about this. Like, I had been thinking about this for months throughout the entire thing, and I'm going to write a blog post about this. It's supposed to be out a while ago, but work consumed everything, so I just had no mental energy. But one of the reasons I didn't like reaction roles, and I still sort of don't in most circumstances, is that it is a social mechanic to begin with.
Right.
And I hadn't really thought of this, but I hate social mechanics for the most part anyway, because they usually get in the way of the role play, or they like, especially the, you know, if you're rolling your manipulation or diplomacy skill or intimidation or whatever, it's just like, okay, I rolled high. Now the other person has to act in some way because I succeeded on something.
Yeah.
And it's never sat well with me.
No.
And so there's two elements to the reaction roll thing where that was part of it. My biggest problem, and this is still my biggest problem with it, is that the people that are like all in on reaction rolls for everything, they tend to view the GM as being neutral in the game.
Right.
And I don't believe that.
Right.
At least you shouldn't be. You should be neutral in enforcing the rules, in how you present the world. The world should work according to a certain logic, and
consistently.
Consistently. You should not fudge that.
Right.
But the thing is, when I'm a GM and I'm role playing an NPC, and especially an NPC that you've interacted with quite a bit, or is sort of an interesting major character, I am not
playing that character.
I am playing that character in the same way as the players. And literally none of these people have given me the answer to this part of the criticism on it.
Right.
Is that the players never make reaction rolls.
And most games it specifically mentions that. Like there's no players don't make morale checks. Players, exactly.
You bring your own reactions. Because you are playing that character. As the GM, I am playing that character, and that character is not neutral within the world.
Yes.
The character has their own goals.
Right.
And where I think most people are missing what we're doing is that when we are role playing, and Pundit talked about this a little bit when we were in the stream that we did, where when he was talking about immersion and about role playing in this it's this thing that comes out of very long play, where eventually your character, when you makes a choice or does something, and it's as if it came from somewhere else, you know, it's like they do something so that even you didn't expect as a player, as a GM. And the thing is, I think that you can get there way faster, and we do.
It shouldn't take you
15 years of play to get to that point, with these characters. And so as a GM, that's where I thrive, and this is what I do.
It's a strength of yours. Yeah.
Well, that's what the fun is.
That's that's the fun. It's the dance. It's the fight. It's rolling with the punches and trying to just authentically be in the moment as that character. Now you can't. It doesn't always work, and there are times where I think reaction roles or social roles make sense. And when a social encounter role is called for, I do now think that the reaction roles are the superior system. For a couple of reasons. One is because it is actually focusing on the circumstances of the target of whatever this, if you're trying to bribe someone, it is really more about what is affecting that person's reaction, as opposed to how successful was I at fast talk, or whatever it is.
Yes.
And it definitely, like in my last session, I was in the Lion and Dragon game, for instance, I've been using these things constantly. I've been trying, because I wanted to play the game rules as written and really give this a shot. And the reaction rules actually were very useful for, and this is something that people have argued to me, and I think I disagreed with them, but I'll give them this point on it, is that for characters that are just created whole cloth on the spot, NPCs, that didn't exist 5 seconds ago, they're great. Yeah, yes, they're really great.
I could totally see that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they give you inspiration. That I was also worried that like now I'm gonna have to like shoehorn some reason as to why they're reacting in some way.
Right.
And it turned out that that process was almost instant. Because I could justify it on the grounds of the role play. It was just like, oh no, here's the direction you go with it right now. Right. So it was like when someone tried to bribe a cleric, and they rolled, the reaction roll came up very, very high, so it was very favorable, but they had all sorts of negatives for them. It's like they were bribing, what was ostensibly an upright member of the church. a literal living saint. Bribing him, had a massive like charisma negative modifier, like all these things. It even still brought that down, but it brought it down into a place of like on the edge of neutrality and negativity. So it added a lot of it made the low level. It did exactly what some of these people said, was it made it less work basically to role play these whole cloth characters out of nowhere. And so I think that it is something I will use, and in most games I'm gonna just strip out the social mechanics to use reaction rolls for these things, because I really just loathe social mechanics in general. However, that being said, if I'm in a kind of a flow state or whatever, I'm not reaching for the dice. Like there's and that whole thing of like I am role playing the NPCs, especially interesting NPCs. I'm role playing them in the exact same way that the players are role playing. Like I'm not fudging.
And if you can't imagine that a GM could do that, then you have no creativity.
You have no creativity. Yeah, exactly.
So it says more about you.
Right.
Well, I like the creativity, Matt, that you were talking about, in that, hey, this is a paragon of virtue, and you're doing something that's somewhat questionable. So there's definitely going to be some heavy modifiers on these. And success may not mean that you get the desired outcome. Success may mean that he doesn't denounce you as a heretic and a dirty sinner and throw you into some penitence somewhere. So you succeeded on the roll. It's not that you immediately get the keys to the kingdom. He doesn't open up the church's coffers to you. He just decides to pat you on the head and say, you have to go say a few Hail Marys or whatever, and repent and no, go on your way.
And so I would also say it's if you're a new game master, this would be an excellent mechanic to lean on. Like like for sure.
Something like that's maybe a new topic that we can talk about a little bit, is how to practice improvement in the game. Like, and I think something like a reaction roll is a great practice tool for new DMs or even experienced DMs, because it does. And there was a comment, I think somebody mentioned this. So I think it's Canucks. He mentioned this as it's a chance to challenge himself to shape the reaction roll result into the tapestry of the campaign. That's an excellent comment. I don't know if you can highlight that.
Yeah, but I'm looking for it.
It's at 8:06 p.m. 8:06 p.m.
8:06. Okay.
And he has 3 reaction rolls. These provide the DM a chance to challenge himself. And that, I think that's the reason why I think that's such a great comment is because if I were to describe myself, I'm looking for ways to challenge myself, and being focused on role play is a challenge, and I like the challenge, and the same way that reaction rolls is a challenge. So I like this take. I think that's a really good take.
And this is something that a lot of people argued. Basic Expert and Victor both argued this. I mean, several people did, but and I agree within a certain context of it.
Right. Of course.
Still, though, it's like I think that most people who are doing it this way generally aren't role playing as much as I am, and as much as Nick is.
I don't think it should. And so replace
the other part of this is that this is role playing is a skill. It is something you can get better at over time. And it's this whole idea of like playing pretend, basically. Like I am a kung fu master at playing pretend.
See, that's a that's a great. I'm glad you say that, Matt, because what I'm looking for is how can those of us that are really interested in really being in the world, how can we exercise that muscle, like that pretend muscle? Like I'm the biggest struggle I'm having right now, aside from the encouraging players to talk to one another in character, is to encourage imagination. And so what I'm always looking for, and And so I pose the question to you two, both of whom, from what I can see, are masters at imagination and pretend, in the world, masters of imagination. How do you, first of all, is it possible to take someone who's struggling with imagination? What kind of things can we do to encourage players to have more imagination and then use that imagination? And I'm not looking for kind of that's so random. I pull something out of a hat, and oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I have this magic doohickey that does this. Like, I'm not looking for that kind of imagination. I'm looking more for evidence that they can imagine themselves in the world. Like they can be totally immersed in the fiction.
Yeah, I think there's part of this. So I'll say this, and this is in regard to any skill, is that everyone can get better, but some people are just going to be have a higher aptitude. There's going to be people who have a higher aptitude for it, and you can't really push past people's natural limits. I think
you also can't push past if someone is struggling because they are resisting this. That's something else.
That's also
the person actually has to be trying. If someone doesn't want to be doing this, there's no way that they're going to quote unquote get better. They may get better at like being less of like a problem by going along with it. But assuming everybody wants to get better,
it's a shame because we all start off really good at this. Like most of us,
right?
Like we're playing. I remember my buddies and I when we were little kids.
Yeah.
We would be in the sandbox for hours. Like we'd have our little GI Joes out. We'd be doing all of the and it's all imagination. It's all pretend.
Yeah.
And then it seems to be just drilled out of us over time. Like no, we don't pretend. That's silly. Like, it's a shame. And my fear is that Nick is 100% right. Like that's my fear, is that it's. And I don't know the answer. That's why I'm really giving it a lot of thought. How do I work on my own imagination so I'm not stuck in a rut or I'm repeating the same tropes again and again and again? So I've started reading short stories as a way to.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
And I know, again, I'm going to be just blasted in the chat for, it's not a book. I know it's not a book. The idea is that I'm just looking for different conflicts, examples of conflicts, examples of, and just going through and exposing myself to as many as I can.
Yeah, the people who like autistically screech about role-playing games don't have story, they don't have plot, it's not a movie, it's not a book, it's not a video game. It's like, we know that.
It's not. They're right. Yeah.
We all know that though.
Yeah.
Nobody's saying.
No one's saying that.
If I'm saying, I got some inspiration from this novel, they're like, oh, you're a novelist? You're a novelist. You're, you're trying to novelize your game like, shut up.
Like you don't know what we're saying.
We all know what I'm saying. Yes. And here's the thing: books, movies, TV, video games. These are all great places to get inspiration for games.
Just like real life is. You don't. You wouldn't knock a real life experience as an inspiration for something. It's insanity.
It's honestly, it's like, for me, it's definitely like movies, TV, books have always given me like great inspiration. Books, especially, like I feel I can get really, really immersed in a good book. To the point, like in this, I've only had this happen one time, and I remember it because it literally startled me when it happened. I was in third grade. I don't know if you're familiar with the Redwall books. They're like these fantasy books for children. I was reading one of those.
Yeah, they have animals as heroes, right?
Yeah, like they're all like anthropomorphic.
Sure.
Character. Yeah.
Oh, Matt's revealing too much about himself.
Yeah. I know.
The anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah, but it's but I remember being like, I was reading, and my imagination had so taken over that it was like I could see these things, and I could taste the food they were eating, and I snapped out of it because I was like, whoa.
Too much.
It wasn't too much. It was just like,
it was just shocking.
That was amazing. Yeah. And so it's like, that was the only time. It was like, it was total synesthesia,
Yes.
And I never gotten back to that level, but I do get very, very immersed in books, and these things, they really, I don't know. It's like, I know that some people have like aphantasia, like they can't visualize things in their mind. And we've gotten shit from people with aphantasia about our feelings on minis and
sure
and all this stuff. And that's another thing. We're not, if you have a disability or like your brain literally if it literally doesn't do the things that mine does, like I can see a picture in my mind, but you're literally like, I can't. I'm not talking to you.
No, of course.
Like
of course.
I'm not criticizing you.
No,
I'm criticizing people who can see something in their mind and actively try not
stamp
to
it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Not
try and stamp that out. It's a crime to do that. It is a crime to do that to children and to school. I'll get on my soapbox for a second. Schools tend to stamp this out of people, and even just the environment of school. When you're a teenager and you're hanging out with a bunch of dudes, and it's about one-upping, it's about statusing, it's about not that's gay, you can't do, like, don't do that.
I used to be just a little bit about myself. I first of all 100% agree with you, Matt. I was a high school teacher for in an earlier career.
I just I've seen all over my chest.
No. Quick, kick him. Where's the kick button?
Yeah.
So I in a previous career, I taught high school, and I loved teaching high school, but I had a lot of issues with the way education is handled. And the issues I have, a lot of them stemmed around the concept of effective evaluation of student learning. And the issue I have with it is that it seems to punish, like in the school system as it's set up, and this may be different in your country than mine, but in my country,
probably not.
It's probably worse, if anything, in my country, because we're up here in the great socialist North, there's a huge, in my experience, and again, I can only speak from what I've seen, so I try not to generalize, but the problem with the student evaluation is that it's punitive to those that take longer to figure it out. And why? At the end of the day, shouldn't it matter that they've learned the material? Like, why is it that those that learn material sooner, that don't really need a teacher anyway, that in most cases they're polymaths, they're autodidacts, they're going to teach themselves. So why do we encourage, like, why do we reward
it's a managerial institution?
It's not and the pressure to conform in schools, like, it's just brutal, the conformity. And it's it was even too much for me. Like, I got so sick of it in the staff room that I would just not, I would just keep my classroom open during lunch hours, and students would just come and hang out in my classroom because I just couldn't stand even the conformity amongst the staff. Like, everyone's expected to be a certain way, to think a certain way. And any outlier is absolutely punished. Like, it's the nail that sticks up a little too much, and they just get hammered.
That's the thing, is that school is perfect for midwits. For people who are
mediocrity is kind of like, oh great, we want more of that.
This is perfect. Everyone should do that, and so people who need extra attention and extra help are
they don't get it.
They're
even
fucked.
people who don't need extra help are.
But that's the thing. People who need more challenge and need
they don't get it.
They don't
bored
get
out
that
of the
either.
skull.
And so
then they start acting out, and it's just like it's a lot.
It's bad for everybody.
It is. It's bad. It's bad. And part of it, I have to say, a large part of it has to come down to the teachers. And again, I'll probably offend a bunch of people, but the problem is that the teachers
do it.
There's no incentive for teachers to improve. We have almost more than any other profession of which I'm aware, we have time carved out for professional development. But there's no tracking of professional development. There's no serious attempt at professional development. From my experience, you and I and everyone in the chat can name teachers that taught the same binder of photocopies for 40 years. Like, where's the development there? Where's the impetus to try to get better? Like, there's none of that. And so it's just an awful experience. I feel like the public school system and
hell is the public education.
I'm not even convinced it's salvageable. Like,
I'm convinced it's not.
I think
I would burn it to the ground.
It's just an absolutely unsalvageable mess, and it's dominated by bad ideas And there is
bad people, evil people.
Like I used to take it as a point of pride that my students didn't know where I sat politically. I would give full, like, and I was teaching, you know, social studies up here as well as other topics. And they would always be trying to guess, well, where are you on this? Like, where are you? Because I know my teacher over here, and this is, you know, they always want to look for, yeah. And I would try to give not straw man arguments, but try to give a reasonable argument from both sides so that the students never knew where I sat.
So they had to think about it.
So you had to, because I'm like, I don't want you to just parrot back to what I think. Like, what's the point of that? You've got to think about it yourself. Here's the tensions. Here's what you have to resolve. If you're this way, then you have to resolve the tension over here. And if this other way, then you've got to resolve the tension on the other side. Like but that's not the way it is now. And even when I've been out of teaching now for a long time, but even when I was there was just a total ideological conformity that is antithetical to teaching impressionable young minds to think for themselves. And I think you can just see the result now.
Well,
right?
and that's
I would say it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. I think you're right, Nick. I think it is a feature, not a bug.
That's the exact explicit purpose of it, is to is to enforce conformity.
Yeah, it is.
To stamp out originality, people and stamp out people who are
right. You're not trying to make
authority. They're trying to make people docile and
compliant.
Oh yeah. We have an education system that really is designed around making factory workers.
Yeah.
And,
right.
That's
it's explicit.
I mean, that's the
entire model.
The whole thing, from the bell schedule to everything. Everything is very much that way. And I think it's a real shame. I eventually had another opportunity. This was just kind of ironic. Like, I had just received some recognition as a teacher, and I was on a track to maybe go into administration. And this is after only 3 years of teaching. So I was kind of, on my way, and I had a chance to jump ship, and I did. And I'm so glad that I did, because it was just such a stifling environment. I tried to, I just something, this is totally off topic. So again, apologies to chat, but
this is great.
I got so upset with the punishment that students were getting for not getting it right the first time that I told all of my classes, I said, listen, I will.
What would be the point of teaching them? If
I'm trying to teach you this. Like, I don't expect you. This is like a piano teacher saying, sit down. Now play me something from Chopin. Yeah. Well, I don't even know a scale. Well, okay. Right. Well, then you get an F. Right, there you go.
Yeah.
So
you failed.
You failed. Yeah. So I told all of my students, I said, listen, I am willing to give you as many versions of the test on this subject that you want to take until you can demonstrate that you know it. So I basically said, up until the time where I have to release a report card, you can have as many rewrites as you want. Mm-hmm. Now, you're going to have to come in on your time. I have to move on, but I want to make sure, and I'll spend as much of my time as I can with you to get you there. Because I knew right away that most people are not going to most people are not going to take me up on it. Those that really want to learn, those are the ones that I want to reach. Like, I want to give them as many opportunities as they can. The amount of blowback that I received from my colleagues was
terrible,
outrageous,
monstrous people,
miserable.
How can you do this? They said, well, this is terrible. Because what was happening is my students would go to their other high school teachers and be like, I'm really not happy with my result. Can I get a rewrite? And they look at them like, what do you mean rewrite? Oh, yeah, I know whose class you're in. And I'm like, well, but why wouldn't you give them as many chances as they need until
they're cheating?
Yeah, it's not cheating. So I saw the writing on the wall. I had a chance to change careers, and I'm really glad I did. But I do feel like the whole system is just set up.
Yeah.
It's just atrocious, and I'm not sure how we got on this topic, but it is. I guess it's that mediocrity. Like, I'm not prepared to accept mediocrity in myself.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And that's the same. That's exactly what we feel about
the same ideology in the public school system is the ideology that is ascendant in the gaming space.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you're right, Nick. I think it is. But I'm also, I guess I'm not quite as jaded as Nick is. Like, I still feel like there's hope, that there's chance for others to.
I mean, there is hope. There absolutely
Yeah.
is hope. I think people stumble when, okay, the monolithic image of the hobby is this way, and it's absolutely atrocious in 100 different ways. We all agree. There are people like yourselves, like us, like a lot, the folks in the chat as well, who are want to, take it to a next step or give it more attention and effort. That is success in and of itself. There's not going to be a title shift in the hobby. Certainly not from like a WotC perspective, or the cultural image of what D&D or tabletop gaming is, and that's okay. It's a fool's errand to, think that there's going to be there's going to be an immersion wave. There's a red wave. There's a blue wave. There's a role play wave. It's never going to happen. It's never going to get here, I think. But people have a difficult time. But understanding
there's a gap though, because there is a sizable
some people
enough...
just want to play games.
Sure, yes, there is that. But what I'm saying is that there is a gap in the market, even for just not literally the market of like selling the books or whatever, but there's a gap in the market in that but there's very few people talking about this, and there's a whole lot of people that know something's wrong and they don't know what it is.
I'm evidence of that, Matt. I am evidence of that I felt like there was something missing. I love the hobby. I've loved it since I was introduced to it way back in my university days, and I knew there was something missing, and I feel like I found a part, maybe the answer, maybe a partial answer, maybe I'm just grappling with it now. I see Written Lies, the very generous individual that gave the he says I'm doomed, hope is for the hopeless. You may be right. It's kind of a grim, dark response, but I am having a wonderful time. Like I'm really having a great time exploring this question of can I turn my game around? Can I turn myself around as a game master? I think that I was very fortunate to Abraham over at Talking About Games gave me an opportunity to be a player and see whether or not I could even do this, which was a risk on his part, because he's very committed to what I think he's probably more aligned with you, Nick. If you're not going to toe the line, you're gone. And and that's so. I thought that it was a good experience, and so I'm having a wonderful time. You may be right, and this may be a hopeless errand, but even if it is a hopeless errand, if I can still have fun, I don't think it's hopeless. My early indications, I'm still very early on this, but my early indications are that that there's a number of people, even in my small little gaming group here in a small town, in the middle of the wilderness, so to speak. I have seen evidence that more people want more from it. They want more from it.
Here's the deal with, this is how I look at it, and I think this is true. No one is going to convince anybody of anything, and we're not trying to convince anybody. If you think differently than we are, nothing we say, no matter how logical the argument or how impassioned the entreaty, it's going to change minds. What you can do, and what we're trying to do with this project, is give people words and remind people of something that they already feel and they already
I think you're right.
Something that they have lost and has been taken from them, and something that is still, people are still actively trying to stop you from doing it.
I don't understand that. Why do you think that is? Like, why? I've seen some of that. I've been very, just because I'm such a tiny little presence on YouTube, I've had a few commentators on videos that were, saying that I've got it all wrong in not quite that bluntly. They usually couch it in many, many words. But I don't understand why there's such a, I guess I just don't know why there's such a vehement reaction to someone saying, well, maybe we could do this differently.
There's
handful of
reasons. 3 reasons.
There's at least 3. I will start with the one that I am most sympathetic to. And that is that some of these people have been stuck in very bad tables of like YouTube 5e sort of things where everyone's doing their voice and it's this sort of faux awful inversion of what you're actually trying to do.
What other people see when they criticize us.
Right. And they're stuck in this railroady preconceived narrative style that is very popular in like the Critical Role type thing.
Right.
That's the only legitimate one. The rest of it,
I would actually add one more in a rare moment of like conciliation on my part.
Okay. We'll have to clip
this. There are some people who are innocent fools who legitimately see tabletop role-playing as it is right now as a wargaming or a board game activity first with extra bells and whistles. They really just want to interact with the mechanics and sort of play it like a board game and sort of win the game. And they're just they don't have the vocabulary. They don't realize how wrong they are. That's not the dynamic.
After we go over these other reasons, I want to return to that because I have one more conciliatory point.
Okay.
So Nick, what you're referring to
giving
is
out a bounty of forgiveness.
Nick, very generous, very reconciliatory.
Enjoy it, boys. It's never happening again.
Yeah, that's right. Give me my reparations.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Nick, what you're referring to made me think of. You've probably read this. The book. It's a very long tome. Playing at the World. It's the one.
I have not read this.
It's Playing at the World is a history of the genesis of role-playing games. And he goes into exhaustive detail about the wargaming aspect. And I think it's fair enough to say that, yes, D&D has its origins in a war game table. For sure it does. And for some, I think that's, the purest way to play is to play it as if it were a war game, army of one kind of thing. It just made me, when you were talking about that, it just made me think of that.
No, you're right.
There's
I'll take the final conciliatory point, and he's not here right now, which is unfortunate because I think he would have enjoyed this conversation quite a bit. Crafty Matt, has talked about. I don't remember what the title of the book, but it's about these guys who play Street Fighter religiously, and they go to they do competitions.
I've watched them. It's amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing, and they use every move in the game. They know every mechanic. They know how every mechanic interacts with every mechanic, and they're dedicated to playing at the highest level possible because for them there is this incredible mastery of the game that you don't get if you're just casually playing.
True.
And I understand that aspect of it. And there was recently I watched Gelatinous Rube on someone else's channel, and Rube and us have had some exchanges on Twitter that were rather heated, but he made a very good point about this style of play that they're talking about, where they look at AD&D First Edition as basically the best, probably the most well-designed game ever made, role-playing game and tabletop game, and that every rule, every tiny little rule in there is designed with purpose, and each one of them is kind of like a I think he described it as like a writer on the behavior of the world. And so you get, if you are playing with the full breadth and depth of the rules, the emergent properties of this are really wild. And since most people are not even close to playing rules as written, they're not getting that experience. And so that experience for them, where they're getting this crazy emergent gameplay, and this in a very consistent world, that creates these unexpected things, like that is the pinnacle of play from what I understand. And I'm trying to paraphrase as much as I can. I think that's also what Crafty is talking about when they're talking about running it rules as written and doing it to the letter, because everything is actually important and most people overlook the actual design that went into it.
Right.
That to me is not why I play the game, and that's not the pinnacle. And the pinnacle in my mind, and this is the thing about what we do, is that you can play rules as written and do this exact style, and they're saying like that will take your game to the new height. And I'm like, okay, but you can still role play on top of that, though.
Right.
Yeah,
and if you do the immersive role play on top of that, it still goes higher. So you're still not getting there, guys.
I don't think it is Matt, I think you've described it better than I can. I think that is the idea here. Is that
Matt, just say bro Asar. Why don't you shut the fuck up? I'm finding you extremely annoying. So you're actually removed.
Give him a timeout.
Wait, no, I deleted. God damn it! I deleted the comment. I'm trying to ban him.
I was going to just say, while you're handling the administrative side of things, I was just going to say that that's how I've considered it, and I don't think that what I'm trying to do is replace the game with something else. I am trying to. I think there's an additive nature of role playing. Like the role playing adds to all of those great things, those great experiences. Right. That I think that this is an opportunity to add to that, and like I don't see it as a replacement for it. But at the same time, I also am not. I'm not convinced with the argument that what came first is always best. Like we went on a long tangent on the education system.
Yeah.
And one of the big things about the education, one of the big problems with the education system is that we always teach the way we were taught. But that doesn't mean that it was an effective way. It's just the way that we did it before. So I'm not convinced of those. I'm glad that they found something that they really like, and good on them. That's great. I think that there's some very admirable components of those systems. I don't know them personally very well, but I can't discount that they still have a very devout following. There's got to be something that's there. But
there is. I mean, like people get like pundits gone wild on them because their dude Jeffro posted some rather spicy memes twice a year ago or something.
Right.
And like they get a lot of flack because of that. And but the thing is, they also get criticized on the type of game they're running, which I agree. It's not the kind of game I want to run. And I don't think it's but the people who, you can't deny that what they're doing does produce a very different kind of game and a very different kind of experience than the conventional tabletop experience. Yeah. Like if you have multiple parties in the same campaign world with multiple GMs, they're all coordinating, they can all
if you're actually doing that,
if you're actually doing
impressive.
That,
it's, I mean, and the thing is
just, it's a different thing.
It's a different thing. And we've actually participated in something like that.
You've talked about that in some of your others, like where it was I'm going to get the name wrong. Vampire the Masquerade.
It was Vampire the Masquerade YouTube experiment, and this has been done by the vampire people out in like large scale LARPs, global even like campaigns basically, and
and they do that to this day in with like organized play stuff.
And it 100% is a different kind of game than standard play. And it does create things where there's things that it like, if you think your players will do something unexpected, we'll wait until there's 50. Like it's gonna generate different stuff. And you look at like EVE Online. We may have talked about this at some point or commented about it. I don't remember. But
I made a comment on that too because I thought it was fascinating. As someone who's studied quite a bit of economics, I thought it was amazing that an online community game like EVE would employ multiple full-time economists. And I thought that was pretty wild.
Best MMO
crazy.
Ever
yeah. I don't. But here's the thing. I heard all those stories of like what all these crazy, like sometimes
corporate conspiracies,
years long corporate conspiracies and everything. And they're so cool. That game was boring as fuck.
Right.
It was like playing spreadsheets. Like I have zero interest in actually playing that game. So in a similar vein, like the kind of Giga West Marches game that they're kind of envisioning and I guess they're kind of playing it. The curator is running one of these things with like 50 players or something.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it sounds like
if they're it does sound like hell to me, first of all, but it's like, even though I can say that's really neat and that's really cool, it's like that is so not what I care about. Like
right.
And it's not because I don't understand what you're doing.
It's just different. Your mileage may vary. Like it's just it's not a. I sometimes I guess where I'm a little different than Nick and yourself, Matt, is I'm quite willing, and I think maybe I don't want to misstate your opinion on this, so please correct me if I've got this wrong. I'm not someone that it doesn't really bother me that people are going to just continue to play what they call role-playing games, devoid of any evidence of role play. It doesn't really bother me. They're going to keep doing that. It doesn't really affect me one way or the other. I'm happy that they've found something that they like. Myself personally, what I'm saying is I'm saying that I have found something in the focus on role play and the natural immersion that comes when you are role playing that works way better for me and has worked better for the other normie players at my table. And so I'm just putting it out there that I'm not saying that I won't go quite so far as to say that these people here are doing it wrong. They're just like you said. Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. I'll leave that to you.
We will say that. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you do say that, because if I go back to my own experience, I did need that. I did need that kind of shocking, forceful statements that I talked about at the beginning that said, look, this is not what you're claiming it to be. For me to have that moment of introspection, to realize that I was calling myself a role player and not having any evidence to support that claim. So I guess that's a lot of words to just say, I'm quite prepared for people that say, you know what, I have fun this way, leave me alone. That's fine. You keep doing you, that's great. But if I may say something as I share my experiences that may cause someone to have an experience like me, where they're like, I want because I really am looking for is just a better, consistently better experience over time. And I'm not convinced that system mastery on itself is going to just give me that.
No.
So
no, I think we would agree broadly with that. We're going to say they're wrong, and they are wrong. Now, some of that is
no apologies.
No apologies, no compromises. Some of that obviously is somewhat tongue in cheek, but there is something to be said. You hinted at it. There is such a fear and aversion in general, but certainly in the hobby, towards any kind of standard whatsoever. And like I had said before, Matt and I are not trying to really convince anybody of anything. What we are trying to do is get a viewpoint out there which is completely non-existent.
Nick, I think that hits it right on the head. Like it's just it's really easy to find the prepackaged, sanitized kind of everyone makes the same almost the order of their list of items is the same. And so you have a lot of that, but when it comes to role playing, if it gets lip service at all, it seems to me that's pretty rare.
Yeah, it's rare to get. Yeah, you're exactly right. It's rare to even get lip service. It is all,
So my hope is
10 things I wish I knew from Tasha's Cauldron of what the fuck,
Oh my God.
Oh man, I regret that purchase so much. But at any rate, buyer's remorse with that. Well, I mean, back in the time though, like I was playing that game with others, and I was like, oh, it seems okay. It seems all right. It's not a bad game.
Yeah. I mean, that's the spirit of the age, right?
Yeah.
We don't live in depredation dire enough to make us change. It's just okay. It's just okay with our hobbies. It's just okay in the political world. It's just okay in the economic world. We're not dying of starvation. We're not.
No, thankfully,
we can just get by.
I completely agree, Nick. We are so fortunate to have the time we can spend.
I know,
talking about this, like where we're not worried about imminent death or starvation or something like that. We are so fortunate. And I see a comment highlighted here. I'm glad, Matt, you caught this comment. It's really good. I completely agree with Primeval Fantasy on this.
Yeah,
there are many like me. I don't know if there are. I shouldn't say that.
There are.
I hope that there are others like me that they're looking for something else. They're looking for something to add to their existing game to enhance the experience. And they're just not sure what it is. And so they click on every listicle that comes up thinking there must be something here.
Somebody has to know.
Yeah.
Somebody has
to
know.
Like I said at the beginning, our goal is to reestablish the Pareto principle.
Yes.
And get the 20%.
And I think it's important because my hope is that the pendulum swings and it swings back towards this more role play focused and less.
I think you're seeing, but the pendulum swing isn't going to come from the major corporate institutions.
No. Yeah.
You're seeing that, but with the rise, and you have seen that for years, slowly, surely. The OSR is part of that, in the winding path towards, self-published material. Anybody can make anything. We plan on making stuff ourselves. That is part of the pendulum swing, but I don't think you're ever going to see, D&D as such, tabletop gaming as such, swing back. I don't.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. The official brand. Yeah.
The thing is, it's like to swing back, it would have had to have been there in the first place.
Yeah, and there's a good argument to be made that that's just not something that.
I don't think it's even gonna. Yeah, it's not even
not in the mainstream core of the hobby. There always have been the people who wanted to do the more immersive stuff, wanted to do more role play focused, more character focused stuff, and people who wanted to do the more wargamey aspect.
Yeah, probably the early 90s with Vampire was probably, and like the height of World of Darkness was probably when it was most culturally.
Yeah, true.
Present.
Yeah. Well, and there was a comment earlier, and it's not a comment necessarily to highlight. It's just that the comment, in essence, was that if the fact that this is what we're talking about, or our space, I hate that term, but
this thing of ours
is
this
niche,
movement,
this community. Oh man, talk about charged
blow
language.
My brains out. I don't want
please, none of that. But if the fact that we're perhaps few means that we're inherently wrong, and I don't think that it's fair to say, well, if we're
I look at it literally exactly
the opposite way.
That's the thing. I'm like, it's not. Is it not possible that the majority get something wrong? Like,
is that not always the case?
I think that's most of the
majority
case.
Ever right?
Yeah. Like, why? If the crowd is going one direction, wouldn't the smart money bet on the one that's going the other?
Yeah.
Like more often than not, it's those outliers that are willing to go against the grain that have something to offer.
Exactly.
And so I don't like that argument. I can understand why someone would say, well, yeah, but if you were right, you'd have more people with you. But it's like, Nick, you mentioned the Pareto
time,
principle. Yeah. And I think, I mean, it just doesn't really bother me very much. I have a very small following, and I really, I appreciate those that are willing to watch my silly little videos with I know they're very low quality, but
they're not.
They're not
good. I do enjoy this, exploring this as the niche. I think it's okay. It's okay to do something different. Like why is that something that should be shunned or punished? Or, we're back to
especially
that
like
nail that sticks up too much. Like smash it down.
Exactly. It's the loser mentality of like, stay down, stay in your lane, don't shine. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah,
you're
you're trying
bye
to
mediocre.
better than us.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
You think you're better than us? Yes.
Yes.
I do think I'm better than you.
Well, and
in fact, I know it.
Yep.
Which is why I'm doing
what's
it.
her name? What's a young Turk person saying that?
Anna
Yes, I am better
Kasparian.
than you.
Yeah.
Anna Kasparian playing that in there. I am better than you.
Yeah.
There you go. You got a good a short for you, Matt. That's fun.
Exactly.
That's a good one. I am better.
That's a good idea.
Do not buy the redemption arc. It's not true.
Yeah, no, I don't believe that in a second. Talk about AstroTurf. There you go. So but I do think it's important to have that I try to come across, because I think it's important not to come like I see a time and time again this argument from authority, like somehow the gods above have given Matt Colville and others an inside track on the way, and I don't want to be guilty of that. So when I think it's important when I talk about my experience, I talk about things that I've actually done, and I can say, well, this worked, this didn't work. I think it's important to be authentic, and I think that whether we stay as a small group, that's fine. We're people of integrity. We actually are trying to do what we're saying we're doing, and I think that's a rare quality these days. Now, am I perfect? No, of course not. But I'm certainly trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get better.
I would say this. Like, I totally get where you're coming from, and I also can suffer from that tendency, to or that concern, right? Even though I what would you say? I don't want to present that too much here. It interferes with the fun and the memes, but okay, so many people in the hobby, especially these Matt Colvilles of the world, the talking heads, right? They're putting out not only wrong, but like anti-enjoyment. Absolutely terrible advice, terrible material. And they're putting it out with such sanctimony and such arrogance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to be that. And it's it's right not to want to be that. However, in the spirit of the age, I think it's a mind trap for people who are anti XYZ, take your pick, anti normal, the new normality, to adopt a self-defeating kind of like humility. I don't want to be that, but that is the antidote. Say what you believe loudly, unapologetically, upfront. And if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're a good faith actor, your ideas will change when and if they have to. But fuck these people.
Nick, I appreciate that, because my tendency, just as someone that it's not that I'm completely conflict averse, but I tend
it's our programming.
It is. We each have our own style, and in my style, I'm buying drinks for the players. I've got dice trays for them. I'm doing this. I'm trying to cater. I'm trying to be the best host I can. I'm doing this and so I have a tendency to approach even the YouTube side of things that way. Like, okay, great. I don't agree at all with this comment, but I'm still going to thank him for his comment. And I think that there is a point where that becomes this self-deprecating, and it defeats the message that I'm trying to get out there. So that's why I think I really am honored that you'd have me on this program, because it gives me a bit of a stretch to say, no, you know what? I do actually feel strongly enough about this that I'm going to align myself with those that feel the same way and are willing to, if it, maybe offends a few people, so be it. But I really do admire your approach to this, which is very much like those that woke me up out of decades of, I would say, mediocre, kind of milk toast type of gaming, and into something that's much more enthusiastic and can accept more of my excitement than the way I was doing it before.
And honestly, to get if you want, what would you say, the positive aspect of what you're saying to affect people, to reach people, you have to be upfront with that. Don't sugarcoat it, because
that's good advice.
I wish I had seen your channel, when I had started, and I wasn't fully aware of what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted more, but where it is in fact you have been the white pill, right?
I mean,
this is it, right?
And
that's incredibly valuable, putting that out there for other people. This is how you do it. I did it.
I will say, literally, like, when I think we might have been your first video. I don't remember, but you tagged our channel on it, and I went and I watched it, and like, it was the biggest encouragement that either of us could have had. Like, I immediately shared it. I was like, you have to watch this. I was like,
that's very kind of you to say that. I was like, that's very kind.
Somebody's fixing their table.
It's working. The mission for God is working.
Yeah, I was like, God, like, we're not just shouting into the void. Like,
you're not shouting into the void. And so, if I can, I would say that really, if I had continued the way I was going, in all likelihood, I'd only last another maybe couple years in the hobby before I would just be done. And that's a shame, because I do enjoy it so much. So you've successfully reached me, and I think that there's others out there that are looking for that. So I think it was, I mean, I was encouraged by other people, like Shauner said, you know what, make a video. Like, and I'm like, why don't I make a video? Like, why I can't?
Like, what's stop anybody?
Why stop? What's
anybody can do it?
Yeah.
You can do it with your phone.
So I've had a wonderful experience.
You
so
can do
far.
it with your phone in your car.
I can. You can, and you can't. You certainly can.
If Garabay can do it, so can you.
I know. And now, of course, just the person that I am, it's like, okay, nope, there's 3 lights on me now, and a green screen, and this and that and the other, and I just tend to go overboard with things.
That's good though.
That's good.
I mean, like, better production values.
Makes pursuit of excellence.
Pursuit of excellence.
Like, I just always, and again, I don't want to come off as like super arrogant.
You're not coming off as arrogant at all.
But
you're coming off as extremely humble.
Yeah. When I just like those videos, as much as they can, for some, they rub them the wrong way. I'm as evidenced by the ongoing chat, where some take real exception to this, and as much as that can happen, it also is effective to reach people like me. And I'm just a regular guy. Like, I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah. So just got it's coming in. I'm waiting for it to come into StreamYard. There we go.
Holy smokes.
$21.10. Also from Written Lies.
That's huge, man. Thank you, Written
Lies. The double plus.
Yeah, when am I getting my Cyberpunk episode? I was going to ask the same
thing. I just need to make a thumbnail for it.
I so want to see
played it
how
like
that
7
goes.
weeks ago.
Yeah, I know. It's been so.
I was so impressed. Yeah, let's see that. I totally agree. Thanks for bringing that out, Written Lies. That's awesome.
So the problem was, we were like, let's use StreamYard. We get in, and then I realized, oh God, I can't do the music here. I was like, I'll just edit it later. That's fine. We'll record it. I'll throw the copyright-free cyberpunk music under it. I'll make a thumbnail then, blah, blah, blah. Whereas previously it was like, make the thumbnail beforehand. So then it's, like, we have a stream set up. Maybe people will watch it live. But this was literally like, we were just like, we just want to play. We're throwing it together last second. Let's get back on and do it. And now I have this video file, and I'm like, I have to edit this. And I have to put this on.
Can I ask a question about that game? I've always like, the other players with you, Matt, are these people that you played with for a long time? I was just absolutely blown away by both of them. They're just incredible.
Matt played with the Netrunner. I play in a physical group every week with the guy playing Omen, the rocket.
Oh wow! Yeah. I mean, so they're just incredible. Like, they're so good. Yeah. They're so good.
Matt is. We met each other. So he's the guy who's playing the Netrunner. We met each other when we were 15.
Yeah.
In drama class. We were theater kids. Both of us went on to study acting.
I got shoehorned into teaching drama once at high school. It's okay. It's okay. You're in a safe space here.
Yeah, exactly. But he got me into Vampire the Masquerade when I was 15 years old, and all we did was play and talk about that game. And we gamed for a very, very long time. And years later, this was like 10 or 15 years later, we hadn't seen each other forever, and he called me and he's like, hey, I'm moving to New York. Like, what do I need to know beforehand? And I was like, it's expensive. Just know that it's more expensive than people to let on.
Yes.
But he So he moved there and we started gaming again. And it was one of those moments where I was like, I had found some people online that I was really liked playing with that were into this kind of style. And I was like, it's been 10 or 15 years. Is he going to be as good as I remember? Or is that just like nostalgia? And like, we started playing a game and it was like, first thing that came out of his mouth, I was just like, oh yes. I was like, I was like, this is great. He's even better.
Oh yeah.
So like we've taken
amazing
every opportunity that we could to keep playing games over the years. And so this was like the perfect opportunity was to, cause both really into Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
And then, Steve, who's been in Nick's group.
Yes. He's popped in the chat from time to time. Not tonight.
Yeah, not tonight, but previous. He's also just awesome. And again, was one of the, I think, playtesters probably of, and maybe involved a little bit in the design as well of Within the Ring of Fire, our favorite immersive fantasy.
Oh yeah, you totally sold me on that. That sounds like a great system. Like
like I said, it's a mixed bag.
It's
a fucking mess.
But it's also, the setting of it was so interesting to me.
Get the saga book and get 77 Thrones.
Get 77 Thrones.
Well, especially the 77 Thrones. I thought that sounded so interesting.
So you got
it. But it's the rules. I watched Mr. Max try to explain and he did a good job. I'm not trying to suggest otherwise, but when he was going through the rules of it, I was, whoa, like I'm not sure.
So he was going through Burning Wheel.
Oh, sorry, that was Burning Wheel. You're right.
That is a different game.
Which is different.
Burning Wheel. I own Burning Wheel.
Yeah.
And I don't think I will ever run that game.
Yeah.
Some great flavor in it. The book is absolutely beautiful, but holy shit, like EVE Online being Excel spreadsheet, the MMO.
Yeah,
this is the equivalent.
Yeah.
So that's Steve. He's actually in your in-person group.
He's in Nick's in-person group. Yeah.
So he's actually gonna be running a game tomorrow. He's running a Savage World Supers game.
Oh, fantastic!
On alternate Fridays. We play in an AD&D 2nd edition game. We're both players in, and then he's in I'm running the Key of Destiny published campaign. It was the first game I ever played in, my introduction to the hobby. Some of the folks wanted to explore the Dragonlance setting. So he is in my game for that as well.
Oh, wow.
He is a excellent role player.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was impressed. Really impressed. Really, really impressed. So that's cool. And you had mentioned at the beginning of this stream that you're looking at publishing something or working on like putting out your own content.
So we actually
we did a stream.
We did a stream
a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
it was our monetization.
Oh, right. Yes, I watched that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
was it that one? I think no, it was.
I think it had
it was the emergency shill stream.
Yes, that's what it was called. I thought it was funny.
So we're starting small. We're working on a small book that is just a single monster. Obviously, it's like variations and subtypes and all this stuff. But we're it's basically like the manual of golems from the immersive role player's perspective. And so this is a monster that you can use as a game master. These. Or creating these monsters for your game and giving them
create them
enormous,
as a player character.
As a character, you're a wizard and you want to create a golem. Like, what is the process of how they're made? And
why this is a whole adventure in and of itself.
Why it's an adventure.
For some reason, that makes me think of some of my old 3.5 collection. There was the Lords of Darkness book, which was just aberrations and only a few aberrations, but it was like a whole chapter on Aboleth, and it went through detailed anatomy drawings and all of this sort of and then same thing with mind flayers, and then there was that kind of thing where it was that sounds really cool to go deep dive.
One type of product we're doing, and it's it's written from, most of it is written as if it's sort of an in-world document.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Of like weird fucked up wizards who
weird
are
wizards
collating all this information,
talking about what the magical theory is.
That's cool. That's
insane
cool.
Wizards.
I'm really excited about it.
That was one of the things I was disappointed in. some of the monster manuals that I've seen over the years, like there was
they fucking suck.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is
get
it's
a paragraph.
just numbers. It's just imaginary numbers.
It's just stat blocks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's it. It's just a stat block. It's imaginary numbers. They're just
and a shitty picture.
and then a poorly, absolutely. And then like I was looking for like, okay, so but let's talk more about the society of this. Like let's talk about what they're first of all how they're
in room D13.
That's all there is. Like there's no ecology behind it, like,
hold on. Justin says, I hear you guys are blocking everybody. What kind of party crackers is that? I blocked L because he was annoying. If I did block somebody else, let me know, because that would have been an accident and he would have been collateral damage. But I hid L from the channel because he was getting annoying.
Anyway, so no. I just think it's really, I like that more of a deep dive.
Yeah,
like
that's
I'd rather
what's
go
interesting. That's what gives
a mile deep
ideas.
than a mile wide and an inch deep. Like
absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be the first one. It'll be print on demand and digital as well. It'll, we're gonna run probably like a really small Kickstarter for it. Like a
good
really
for
you. A little bit to build interest, but also to recoup budget on like art and stuff that we use.
Right.
But nothing.
We have a lot of
like,
stuff planned, but there's no deadline. We're not officially announcing anything other than
there's no release date on this. We're working on it, and the idea is that we know that this is going to be. We didn't want to start with like, let's make our own game and then have it like suck, and then or go just completely overboard on something. It's like we want to start small because we know that like there's a whole bunch of stuff we don't know how to do yet, which even making the book and layout and all this stuff. We're a 2-man shop. We're going to be doing all this on our own. And we're going to make mistakes. So it's better to do those things at a smaller scale first, take baby steps and incrementally get bigger and bigger.
Mistakes. Absolutely.
But we will be making full settings and full books, like full games at some point.
Well, that's fantastic. Ambitious. I like that. I really like that. Now, you used to do a weekly podcast, but that's kind of fallen off a little bit. Is that coming back, or is that? It
is. It's going to be a little bit less frequent because we're going to be more selective on the topics. But it will be coming back. Part of the problem is that we've had like an enormous amount of travel, and I've got more travel coming up. So like actually, that between that and just work becoming overwhelming, and that's at certain points it's become difficult to keep that weekly. So it will be back. It will probably be more like bi-weekly, but we're also not going to put like a dead set schedule on that as well.
Right.
Yeah,
but that is the general cadence we want to get back to, and probably will in the next couple of weeks.
Yes.
Well, I hope I've given some interesting commentary at some point here. Do you have any questions for me, or like what are you?
Well,
would you be interested in coming back?
Yeah, would you?
Oh, absolutely. I had a lot of fun. This was a great conversation. We kind of meandered through a number of topics, but
it's great.
I mean, that's how I
thought it was good, and I really do appreciate some of the things both of you said to me. Like I will take that to heart, Nick. That it's not helpful to be mealy-mouthed. At times it's better to just be clear-cut,
be clear-cut, be direct,
especially when you know in your heart you're not being bad-spirited. So be bold.
That's really good advice, and I certainly will take that to heart. But I'm very honored. This has been a lot of fun. I hope those in the chat weren't bored to tears. There's some of you that have stayed with us.
They're giving us money. So
they're giving us money. Great. Yeah. That was so kind. That's just super generous.
It really is, and we really do appreciate that.
And I apologize for those. And I tried to keep an eye, like one eye on chat.
No, you're doing a better job than we were.
Yeah.
Like there was a question about how often I'm a player.
Like any comments?
Yeah. I kind of feel bad. Like there was probably some that had really good questions, but there was like some questions. Well, one question was directed to me was how often I'm a player instead of a GM. I'm almost always the GM. Almost always.
Yeah.
And very seldom do I get to be a player. And the first time I've been a player is when I was on that Talking About Games. His his thing. That was the first time in years and years and years. So yeah,
well, maybe this shift in the play style will get one of your players interested.
That's my hope, is that if I can show my players just how fun it is to run the game, and they're not so like, wow, it's just too much.
You don't need to take a test.
You don't have to take it. Like, the barrier to entry to this is just not as high as people assume.
No.
And to
really
the hobby in general. Like,
yeah.
As evidenced by the fact that if you have someone that's brand new to the hobby, you can have them come into your game and participate in the game without having read the manual yet. Yeah. Eventually, they're going to need to.
The people who do the most prep work have the shittiest games.
It seems like it's more of a problem to over prepare than under prepare.
Yeah, it's completely.
Absolutely.
I've noticed that too. If I spend my good wife is good at, she's like, okay, how many hours are you spending on this? And that's a good reminder that if it's like, well, if I'm spending 6 hours of prep time for a 3-hour game, what am I doing? So,
not good ROI.
It's a very poor return on investment. Very, very poor.
Heath says, great chat at Table Runner. Glad to hear you'll be returning.
Thank you very much, Heath. And that's really nice of you.
If you guys are watching this and you haven't subscribed,
please come subscribe. We'd love to have you.
What the fuck is wrong with you? Go subscribe. It should be in the description of this video. His channel is at Table Runner. So go and check it out.
I did change the name so that it's hopefully a little easier to find, but I'm still crispy.
We changed the name on this channel. It was completely obscure.
But anyone who wants to follow along, you're more than welcome to join with me.
Yeah.
Wandering Mage says he'll be buying that Golem book, so expect more money.
Most excellent.
Yeah. Well, we love that.
Yeah, stay tuned.
Me too. Yeah, sign me up. I'll love to be a backer. Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Well, that's great. Well, I really appreciate it, gentlemen. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of fun. My first live stream ever. Very honored that it was on Black Lodge Games. I think that's fantastic.
Happy to have you. Yep. This is your videos are actually genuinely interesting content. So it's like I enjoy watching them.
Thank you.
It was going to be an easy conversation to have.
I feel like we could have just kept talking about all sorts of things. Like, we just get rambling and absolutely. A lot of fun.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and have a good night. And remember,
no apologies.
No compromises.
That's right.
Amen.